Chapter 829. Di Chun and the others did not stay in Hegemon City for long and immediately returned to their respective territories. The upheaval in Minnan Province caught Di Chun and the others off guard. The Yen-Wang alliance, which was originally in a good position with the support of Silverhand, seemed to be on the verge of collapse. The prospects were bleak. After taking over Minnan Province, Shanghai City's territory was already equivalent to the entire Yen-Wang alliance's territory, and its strength was frighteningly powerful. If compared with European countries, it was equivalent to 3 or 4 European countries combined. Even if Silverhand supported them, Di Chun and the others could not see the hope of defeating Shanghai City alone. As for letting foreign members directly send troops to attack Shanghai City, it was temporarily impossible. Not to mention the technical difficulties of cross-border campaigns across the ocean, the Academy, which had always been silent, was a hurdle that the Silver Hand could not avoid. It was only the 4th year of Gaia, and the academics would never allow Silver Hand to destroy the entire game's ecology. If the Silver Hand were to mess around like this, how could they fight in the future national war? In addition, other members of Silver Hand also had to worry about the reaction of domestic grassroots players. If they so blatantly helped Yen-Wang Alliance fight a civil war, what would the domestic players think? When the time came, they might not be able to fight in their own backyard. Therefore, in a short period of time, Silver Hand would not face Shanghai City head-on. Even if they did, they would use Shanghai City's overseas base and the Grand Line to make a fuss, and not attack the China region. Taking 10,000 steps back, even if there were foreign allies, how would Yen-Wang Alliance deal with it? Not to mention being unable to raise their heads in Silverhand, they would also be labeled as traitors in China. Using the rules of the national war, Shanghai Alliance could even unite domestic forces to fight against the invaders, completely forcing Yen-Wang Alliance to dig their own grave. Even if Silver Hand could really hit Shanghai City, it would be a lose-lose situation. Thinking about it from another perspective, Silver Hand could not hit Shanghai City in China, and Shanghai City did not pose much of a threat to Silver Hand members outside of China region for the time being. There was still a delicate balance between the two for the time being. Therefore, unless it was a last resort, neither the Silver Hand nor Di Chun and the others would take this step. The higher-ups of the Silver Hand were even more worried that the academics would make a fuss about it. If that was the case, it would be fun. The Silver Hands had never relaxed their guard against the academic. A tiger that knew how to endure was terrifying. In comparison, Shanghai City, which was an anomaly, was not that important. Therefore, at times like this, Di Chun and the others had to calm down and think about how to deal with this sudden change. As for the current awkward situation of Overlord City, Di Chun and the others were temporarily powerless. Good luck! Di Chun took pleasure in Shuryan's misfortune. Xiongba was extremely pleased with himself when he instigated the Seeking Dragon acupuncture point technique. His voice in the alliance had even gone up an octave. It's all good now. Retribution has come. Di Chun and the others left, but Xiongba was cursing in his heart. In addition to cursing, there was more fear. He instigated the Seeking Dragon acupuncture point technique and dug up the foundation of Shanghai City. Who knew if Who Says Wui would use this as an excuse to launch a crazy revenge on Overlord City? Who Says Wui was a vengeful person. If that was the case, there would never be peace in Jiangnan Province. For a time, the pressure was as heavy as a mountain, and Xiongba, the ambitious and ruthless person, was a little out of breath. People who did not confront it head-on could not feel this kind of pressure. At the thought of this, Xiongba was annoyed with his previous instigation. I'm really muddle-headed. How could I provoke that old fox and get myself into trouble? What was even more annoying was that nothing happened to the person who was poached. Instead, his strength was further improved and he forcibly took over a province. The person who poached him was in a constant state of anxiety and worked hard for Shanghai City. What the hell is this? The more Xiongba thought about it, the angrier he became. He wondered if Hu Says Wui had long been aware of the rebellion of the Seeking Dragon acupuncture point technique and deliberately used him to get rid of this hidden danger. It was not impossible to put oneself in someone else's shoes. This was the usual style of an ambitious and ruthless person. Xiongba's face was getting darker and darker, but he still had to do what he had to do. In desperation, Xiongba ordered Wu Qi to lead his troops to set up defenses at the border to guard against a surprise attack from Shanghai City. At the same time, he sent a letter to War Wolf to discuss a closer alliance between the two families. At the moment, the only one who could help Overlord City through this crisis was War Wolf, who was also in the south. Fortunately, the two had a good relationship and had a basis for further cooperation. After writing the letter, Xiongba's expression was still not relaxed. Relying on others was only a temporary solution. The key was to strengthen themselves. Thinking of this, Xiongba got up and went to the window, looking into the distance, looking northwest. There was a chaotic Huanan province there. Only by taking this place could Overlord City strengthen its own strength and obtain a strategic buffer zone, so that it would not be under the threat of Shanghai City at all times. It was just that Huanan province was full of aristocratic families and various forces, so it was not easy to take it. Xiongba had learned his lesson, and now he thought even further. If Shanghai City suddenly attacked Jiangnan Province while Overlord City was attacking Huanan Province, what would happen then? Just thinking about it made his heart cold. This is difficult. Xiongba let out a long sigh, and a rare trace of desolation appeared in his eyes. He muttered to himself, "Since the southern border has me, Xiongba, why is there a need to say that there is no clothes?" Xiongba's lofty aspirations could not be fulfilled, and his hegemony had been thwarted, so his feelings were really complicated. 19th of March, Minnan Province. In just 4 days, Fan Lihua led the brave Tiger Army's 3rd Corps to clear the hidden danger in Longyan County, and led hundreds of thousands of troops into Tingzhou County. And as early as a day ago, Ma Chao led the Tiger Leopard Cavalry into Shaowu County. The War of Minnan Province had officially come to an end. The unexpected silence of the Yan-Huang alliance made the few lords who were still stubbornly resisting despair. If they continued to resist, they would only be destroyed. The lords were not stupid, and they would not be Mantis trying to stop a chariot. They helplessly surrendered and minimized their losses. At this point, the situation in Minnan Province had been settled. All that was left was to take over the territory, reorganize the army, and defend the entire Minnan Province. At the same time, they would get rid of all unstable factors, and wait for the Southern Border Protectorate to settle the 4 counties of Minnan Province. Under the protection of their personal guards, the 16 lords brought their families and properties with them as they set foot on the road to Shanghai City. In this way, the last obstacle for Shanghai City to take over the 4 counties had been completely swept away. When the news came out, it shook the entire wilderness. No one could have imagined that Shanghai City would do something like this. As time passed, more and more secrets were revealed. First, the Dragon Seeking Point betrayed Shanghai City, and secretly formed an alliance with the Yan-Huang Alliance. No one thought that their plan would be so careless, and Shanghai City would find out, and in the end they would be annihilated. No one would sympathize with the Dragon Seeking Point's misfortune. Not only did the Yan-Huang Alliance fail to steal a share, but they also made a fool of themselves. What was even more shocking was the secret arrangements that Shanghai City had made in Minnan Province. The 10 lords changed sides at the same time. This was not the work of a day, but the result of a long period of planning. If it wasn't for the outbreak of war, who would have thought that Minnan Province was already in Shanghai City's pocket? If one were to think of the similar Jiangchuan Province, it would really make people shudder. There was a rumor that the moment the Dragon Seeking Point was destroyed, the Black Lion City's lord, the Siege Lion, rushed to Shanghai City to pay a visit to the alliance leader. No one knew what the two talked about. What kind of role would Jiangchuan province play in the wilderness in the future? On the day that the siege lion returned to his territory, he announced a shocking news. Jiangchuan province's Poyang Lake was officially opened to the Shanghai City's Southern Border Fleet unconditionally, and the Southern Border Fleet was allowed to train and station there. This news was really thought-provoking. The more observant players linked up the major events that happened in the wilderness since the Spring Festival and came to a shocking conclusion. Shanghai City and the Yan-Huang Alliance had clashed 3 times in a short period of time. The Yan-Huang Alliance won 2 times and lost 1, and seemed to have the upper hand. However, those with discerning eyes could see that the Yan-Huang Alliance was just a spear tip that looked good, but was useless. They won on the periphery but lost on the core interests. The Yan-Huang Alliance seemed to have the upper hand, but in reality, they were defeated by the Shanghai City's shocking attack. After the dragon seeking point was reincarnated in Chuanzhou's royal city, he unwillingly revealed the Yan-Huang Alliance's treachery, which made Xiongba and the others even more embarrassed. The dragon seeking point's miserable ending just happened to prove a shocking fact. In the wilderness, those who cooperated with the Yan-Huang Alliance did not have a good ending and were eventually abandoned. From the Lianzhou Basin lords at the beginning, to the Lingnan city-state, to the Yunnan city-state, and finally the dragon seeking point, each ending was more miserable than the last. This shocking fact caused the Tingyu Tower, a Laojun Temple, flowing light pavilion, and hundreds of large and medium-sized guilds that had just switched to the Yan-Huang Alliance to completely explode. The leaders of the guilds gave up the Shanghai Alliance, which was more of a promise, and chose the infamous Yan-Huang Alliance. What were their intentions? Were there any dirty deals that could not be told? The ordinary members were extremely excited, and even the higher-ups of the guilds were puzzled. In an instant, the guilds were in a state of turmoil. At this time, there was a rumor that the leaders of these guilds were actually the lackeys of the hidden aristocratic families. In reality, they worked for the aristocratic families to gain their support, and naturally did not care about the interests of the ordinary members. The identity of the old Jun family's illegitimate son was also exposed. As soon as the news came out, it completely ignited the anger of the players, causing them to denounce the leaders of the guild. Traitors! There were 2 medium-sized guilds that deposed their leaders on the spot. On the other hand, Thunder Sound and the others were filled with regret. Isn't this retribution coming a little too soon? Chapter 830. Conflicts often gave rise to changes. In this trust crisis, whether it was the removal of the guild leader or the withdrawal of the guild, they were in the minority. The system of the guild's development was already mature, and the internal interests were unclear. It was not that easy to give up. Especially for the 3 giants, Tingyu Tower, no one withdrew from the guild with the satellite city in their hands. Not withdrawing from the guild did not mean that the players were indifferent. How to effectively supervise the guild leader and ensure that the interests of all the players in the guild were not violated or betrayed became a hot topic in the guild circle. Even the internal members of the guilds that weren't involved were having similar discussions. Better safe than sorry. China never lacked smart people. In less than 2 days, someone had come up with a disruptive guild structure. The executor was not a middle-sized guild that was cheated, but one of the giants, Tingyu Tower. Sword Key Thunder was a strong-willed woman. She would not try to shirk the responsibility after making a mistake. Although she had the satellite city in her hands and very few people left, Sword Key Thunder knew very well that she had to take action to keep the hearts of the members and let them unite by her side on Planet Hope. Perhaps, at the moment when Shanghai City captured Dragon Seeking City, the Sword Chi thunderous sound already had a premonition. As soon as the crisis arose, Sword Key Thunder discussed remedial measures with the guild leaders to win back the trust of the members. Sword Key Thunder had worked with Shanghai City for a period of time and learned a thing or two about Ouyang Shua's game philosophy. After thinking for a day and a night, she finally came up with a guild structure that would affect the entire guild circle in the future. It was simple to say. It was to reform the guild into a shareholding system. Guilds established in the game were equivalent to entrepreneurs in reality. The guild leader and a group of elders were the founders and venture partners. Like startups in reality, in the early stages of the development of the guild members had a high degree of trust in the founders and the founders' team, giving them full authorization. Perhaps at this stage, the players had not realized how closely the decisions of the guild leader were related to their own interests. Their original intention of joining the guild might be to find a backer. Since it was a backer, they would naturally obey unconditionally. Furthermore, due to the inertia of traditional games and the constraints of the entire guild system, the ordinary members did not have much room to play. It could even be said that the normal members wouldn't have much interaction with the guild leader. The ones who truly surrounded the guild leader were the guild's upper echelons and elite teams. Because of this, most of the guild's decisions were made by the core members themselves, which indirectly led to the fact that the leader of the guild had the final say. At this stage, the ordinary members did not feel that there was anything wrong with this. Currently, the relationship between the guild and its members was one of mutual dependence, each taking what they needed. There wasn't much conflict of interest between the two because the guild hadn't started profiting yet. By the 4th year of Gaia, the guild had already passed the nascent stage. Especially with the opening of the satellite cities, the hegemonic guilds began to profit. The relationship between the two was undergoing a subtle change. The ordinary members were no longer as calm as before. They began to stare at the guild's profits and think about how much they could get. Since there was a demand for benefits, the normal members naturally wouldn't remain indifferent to the decisions of the guild's higher-ups. Therefore, at this time, the original decision-making mechanism was flawed, and modern enterprise management systems needed to be introduced. Otherwise, it would be difficult for a startup to continue growing. In reality, the common practice is to introduce a shareholding system or even go public. And the basic requirement of going public was for the company to establish a modern enterprise management system and financial system. In reality, there were professional evaluation organizations that would evaluate this. Those that failed would not even be able to reach the threshold of going public. Of course, the guild did not need to go public, but the shareholding system reform was imperative. This was the safest and most effective way to ensure the interests of all the members. On the other hand, once the reform was successful, the members would collectively hold shares, deepening their recognition of the guild. Their personal interests and the guild's interests would be closely linked. Once someone harmed the guild's interests, the ordinary members would not let it go, just like the current crisis of trust. Similarly, if an external faction threatened the guild's interests, the ordinary members would not hesitate to fight. As such, the guild's cohesiveness and combat strength would definitely rise to a whole new level. Overall, the benefits outweighed the disadvantages. Therefore, even without the crisis of trust, the shareholding system reform would still be the guild's trend. After all, Earth on Earth was too special. It was not only entertainment, but it was also closely linked to real interests. Collectively holding shares could only share the benefits, but it did not solve the problem of supervising the head of the guild. Therefore, the restructuring of Tingyu Tower, in addition to the reform of shares, also needed to set up a shareholders' meeting, elect directors, set up a board of directors, a board of supervisors, and other relevant institutions to ensure that the guild's decision-making was more scientific. In addition to the guild's senior management, the number of directors also needed to be represented by ordinary members. As the chairman, the head of the guild was not only restricted and supervised by the board of directors and the board of supervisors, but also the guild's major decisions had to be collectively voted through the shareholders' meeting. In this way, the head of the guild changed from a high and mighty leader to a professional manager who worked for all the members. Thunderous Sword was undoubtedly very smart, and she had a mind and boldness that ordinary men could not reach. No matter what, this reform had a huge impact on Thunderous Sword's personal interests. It was really amazing that she could give up part of her interests and focus on the guild's long-term development. Therefore, as soon as the shareholding system reform plan of Tingyu Tower was put out, the shock in the guild immediately subsided, and Thunderous Sword's reputation in the guild rose instead of falling. A beautiful crisis public relations, a gorgeous transformation. Bai Shaoxing commented on the reform of Tingyu Tower in the Daily News. Tingyu Tower set a good example. In the following period, other guilds that were caught in the storm, either voluntarily or forced, followed Tingyu Tower and started a round of vigorous shareholding system reform. In this process, many of the guild's senior management, who were not supported and recognized by ordinary members, were mercilessly excluded from the board of directors. On the contrary, some grassroots players who enjoyed a good reputation among ordinary members, with the unanimous recommendation of the big guys, became directors, entered the board of directors, and became the guild's senior management, fighting for the interests of ordinary members. Even some guild leaders who had just escaped a disaster were removed by the shareholders' meeting under the instigation of some guild's senior management. They were ruthlessly swept out of the door and became pitiful losers. The other two of the three giants who betrayed the alliance of mountains and seas also had a hard time. Once the identity of old June's illegitimate son was exposed, he immediately encountered the most serious trust crisis in history. He had to publicly promise to sever ties with his family to barely keep his position as the head of the guild. The June family's painstaking plan was ultimately in vain. Old June, the illegitimate son of a wealthy family, was exposed in the wilderness, humiliated and ridiculed, and the rift between him and his family could no longer be repaired. Get lost. If you hadn't provoked me, would I have ended up like this today? Old June was so exasperated that he drove his family members out of the satellite town, including his father. The two of them completely broke up, and it was a farce of father and son killing each other. After such a disturbance, old June could no longer have a say in Liuguang Pavilion, the guild he founded. For a long time in the future, old June had to make compromises and concessions. Compared with old June, Taoist priest Green Ox of Laojun Temple was in a slightly better situation. After all, many of the backbone members of Laojun Temple were acquaintances of Taoist priest Green Ox, so his position was relatively stable. But for a period of time in the future, it was inevitable that Taoist priest Green Ox would have to hide behind others. Similar scenes were staged one after another in the wilderness. There was no doubt that this was a profound reshuffle within the guild. After the reshuffle, it was a great thing for the overall strength of the guild circle in China. Before the reshuffle, no one had expected such a result. Not only the guilds that were in turmoil, but the voices of ordinary members in other guilds were also getting louder and louder. Guild reshuffling was already the general trend. The first to respond to the voices of ordinary members was Snow Rose Mercenary Group. In addition to using the plan of Tingyu Tower, Snow Rose Mercenary Group played a new idea this time. After the unanimous approval of the shareholders' meeting, Xie Xiyun, the new chairman, represented Snow Rose Mercenary Group and officially invited Ouyang Shua to join the board of directors as an independent director. The cost of the shares was the bed crossbow and divine arm crossbow that Ouyang Shua sent that night. If it weren't for the support of this batch of equipment in the defense battle of Snow Rose Mercenary Group on February 26, they would have almost fallen under the wolf pack tactics of Silver Hand. Therefore, the members of Snow Rose Mercenary Group were very grateful to Shanghai City. Coupled with the long-term close cooperation and friendly exchanges between the two sides, it was really a matter of course to invite Ouyang Shua to join the board of directors. In this way, the two forces had a connection of interests, and the alliance relationship became more and more solid. After Snow Rose Mercenary Group, One Thread, and Falling Moon Guild, two guilds that were originally in Shanghai City, also completed the reshuffle. Similarly, Ouyang Shua also became an independent director of One Thread. In Falling Moon Guild, Ouyang Shua was a very important director, second only to Sun Xiaoye, the chairman. What Ouyang Shua didn't expect was that after Baleful Mercenary Group completed the reshuffle, Bloody Romance also invited him to be an independent director. However, Baleful Mercenary Group had no objections to Bloody Romance's decision. One had to admit that this was really a very special guild. Chapter 831. Luoyang's capital, Satellite City. The headquarters of the Rain-Savoring Tower was located in the official residence of the city lord of the satellite town, overlooking the entire city in an imposing manner. In the study of the city lord's mansion's western courtyard, Thunder Sword Chi stood by the window, staring at the distant sky with a desolate expression. There was also a young woman standing behind the thunderous sword Energy. She was dressed as a swordsman and looked very capable and experienced. She was the deputy head of the Rain-Listening Tower, Forsaken Tears. Looking at the post-starter's expression, he said with tears in his eyes, "Post-starter, even the baleful Bloody Mercenary Group has invited Lord Tianyi to be an independent director. Can we follow suit and repair our relationship?" Thunder Sword Chi didn't turn around. He said desolately, "A broken mirror will always have cracks no matter how hard it is repaired. Since we've already betrayed each other, we can't go back anymore. We might as well forget each other in Jianghu." His tears had stopped flowing and he was speechless. That was the way of the world. There was no medicine for regret, and there was no turning back. Once he took a step forward, he could no longer turn back. In the study, there was a long sigh of Sword Chi thunder. 1 week ago, March 14th, Shanghai City. After the Imperial Guards conquered the dragon-seeking city, Ouyang Shua shifted his attention back to the capital city advancement mission. The war in Minnan was left to the General Administration of Military Affairs and Hua Tsubing to handle. Ouyang Shua wasn't even in a hurry to make arrangements for the 4 prefectural governors and the army reorganization plan. Minnan province was temporarily under military control, and they would make further plans after Shanghai City was promoted to the capital city. Ouyang Shua no longer paid attention to Minnan. There was another matter that was holding him back. Not because of anything else. The examiners sent by the Imperial Court of Dali had finally arrived quietly. On the morning of the 14th, a merchant ship entered the Lianzhou Basin via the Friendship River. Along the way, it did not stop at the Shila Lake Pier, but directly entered the central pier of Shanghai City. After reaching the shore, the attendants carried down boxes of tea leaves, all of which were high-quality pu-er tea. The central pier of Shanghai City was bustling with people. Whenever a merchant ship docked, it would immediately be surrounded by a group of brokers or second-hand dealers. Merchant ships that were not familiar with these merchants would easily be deceived by them and sell their goods directly. As long as a middleman found a suitable buyer, he would be able to earn a sum of money in the process. Knowing that the caravan had actually brought high-quality pu-er tea, the second-hand dealer jumped up and down like he had been injected with chicken blood. Because tea leaves sold well overseas and were easy to transport, they were most loved by the great merchants. Once they changed hands, the middleman would earn 20% of the profit. Speaking of which, it was strange. This caravan was probably a newbie or something, but they sold all the tea they had brought at the pier, making the second-hand dealers so happy that they couldn't find their way north. After selling their items, the group strolled around Shanghai City empty-handed. As they strolled, they purchased items that caught their attention. It was as if they were a newly arrived merchant group. Unfortunately, their actions at the pier had already attracted the attention of Shanghai City's secret agents. The higher-ups had given the order to not let any suspicious person go. The spy followed them and found something strange. The leader of this caravan was a middle-aged merchant. There was no doubt that he was a merchant. What was strange was that while this caravan was strolling around, 4 of the workers quietly left the main group and blended into the vast crowd. This time, the leader of the Shanghai Guards who was in charge of surveillance was excited. He had a premonition that he had caught a big fish. As he arranged for people to monitor the caravan and the workers who had left, he reported it to the headquarters. After a while, the news reached Ouyang Shuo. When Ouyang Shuo received the news, he ordered the Shanghai Guards to continue monitoring the caravan and not alert the enemy for the time being. At the same time, they could not let their guard down, lest they fall into the enemy's trap. This surveillance basically locked on to the caravan. There was nothing strange about the caravan. The key was the 4 workers who had left the group. The 4 of them seemed to have a division of labor. Some of them wandered around the city, observing the construction and layout of the city, stopping from time to take notes. Some went in and out of the shops and chatted with the workers. Some went into the homes of the commoners and talked about all sorts of things. The last one disguised himself as a scholar and entered the hall of Southwest University, China. They thought that they had done it secretly, but they did not know that they had fallen into the eyes of the secret agents of Shanghai City. Since there were no problems with the mock assessment led by Jiang Shang, and it could even be said to be very good, some of the minor problems had been dealt with in the past few days. Ouyang Shuo did not do anything superfluous and arranged for the 4 of them to do their own assessment. Ouyang Shuo wanted to see if they could fabricate something out of nothing. The afternoon passed in the blink of an eye. In the evening, the caravan found an inn to stay for the night. The travel permit they used was issued by the Dali Imperial Court. According to the rules of Shanghai City, traveling merchants had to have travel permits. Otherwise, they would not be able to stay. The 4 workers who had left the group also quietly met up with the main group in the evening. They looked a little dejected, but they did not manage to find anything that could be used against Shanghai City during the day. Another day passed, and everything was as usual. Ouyang Shuo sat in the study and calmly waited. As long as these people did not reveal their identities, Ouyang Shuo was not prepared to expose them. He wanted to see what tricks they had up their sleeve. The incident happened on the morning of the 16th. That morning, the main group of the Chamber of Commerce walked into a watch shop owned by a Westerner. It seemed that they were preparing to purchase a batch of clocks. It was not strange at first. However, not long after, this group of people became unreasonable. They insisted that the workers in the shop dismantle the clocks and let them see the internal structure before they could buy them. How could the workers agree to such a rude request? Even if they agreed, the workers were all locals of Shanghai City and would not dismantle the clock. This time they were furious. Without saying a word, they began to smash things in the shop. The workers tried to stop them, but they were beaten up by the followers. One of the workers was pushed down by one of the followers. His head hit the clocks, and blood immediately flowed from his head. The commotion at the front door finally alerted the shopkeeper in the back hall. The shopkeeper was a British merchant. When he saw this situation, he immediately became angry and asked his worker to report it to the authorities. In less than 10 minutes, the bailiffs of Shanghai City arrived at the scene and brought the group of people to the Yamen for interrogation. When the secret agent of the Shanghai Guards who had been in charge of surveillance saw this, he became anxious and quickly reported it to the authorities. When Ouyang Shuo received the news, he frowned. According to the territory code, causing trouble and injuring someone would be sentenced to at least 3 months in prison. The problem was, if that was the case, what would happen to the assessment mission? However, the case had already been taken over by the Shanghai City Internal Affairs Bureau, so Ouyang Shuo could not interfere immediately. He only instructed Wei Yang to keep an eye on the case. On the morning of the 17th, after the case had been investigated, Ouyang Shuo summoned Wei Yang to ask for the opinion of the Internal Affairs Bureau. According to the verdict of the Shanghai City Internal Affairs Bureau, the merchant leader was sentenced to 3 months in prison, and the followers who had participated in the smashing of the clocks were sentenced to 4 months in prison. As for the follower who had injured the workers in the shop, he was sentenced to 6 months in prison. In addition, the Chamber of Commerce had to compensate the financial losses of the watch shop and the medical expenses of the injured. The entire sentence was fair, just, and open. Originally, this was not a big deal. After all, the examiners that the Shanghai guards had targeted were the 4 workers who had secretly investigated. Even if these people were sentenced, it would not affect the assessment mission. The problem was, whether it was a coincidence or intentional, when the caravan entered the watch shop, the worker in charge of inspecting the shop followed them in and even participated in the smashing of the clocks. This was simply nonsense. Official Wei, how do you think this case should be handled? Ouyang Shuo asked. Wei Yang knew the inside story, but his attitude was firm. He said, My lord, no matter who it is, as long as they break the law, they must be punished according to the law. There is no favoritism. Ouyang Shuo said awkwardly, Then what about the assessment mission? Do we have to wait until 4 months later? If there is no other way, then we can only wait. Ouyang Shuo was speechless. For months later, the daylilies had all turned cold. Can you let that worker off alone? Ouyang Shuo tried to ask. He really wanted Shanghai City to become a capital city as soon as possible. This not only affected the establishment of Shanghai City, but it also affected Ouyang Shuo's conjecture about the capital city's satellite city. If this dragged on for too long, Ouyang Shuo was worried that something would happen to the Dream House and the Shadow Alliance. Even if it was the Breeze Pavilion, they wouldn't be able to hold on for so long without their satellite cities. Wei Yang said, My lord, if we show favoritism and let that worker off, then where is the dignity of the territory code? How can we talk about judicial fairness? Without judicial fairness, the territory code will not be able to pass the imperial court's assessment. In that case, the assessment mission will be a complete failure. Ouyang Shuo was shocked. He was so anxious that he lost his mind. He said, You mean to say that this is a trap set by the other party? Their intention is to lure us into favoritism and ruin the advancement mission? Wei Yang nodded and said, Very likely. I have a detailed understanding of the case. According to the witnesses, the other party is completely unreasonable and unreasonable. What is even stranger is that worker. His timing was too coincidental, and he even participated in the smashing. If he is the examiner, then this is too absurd. Ouyang Shuo was 80% convinced by Wei Yang's words. The other party thought that they had done it secretly, but they did not know that their every move was under the control of the Shanghai guards. That was why they came up with such an absurd idea. Ouyang Shuo made up his mind and decided to believe Wei Yang's judgment. He said, All right, this case will be judged as it should be. I will not show favoritism or protect. If the heavens want Shanghai City to delay for 4 months, I will accept it. My lord is wise. Wei Yang had a gratified expression on his face as he respectfully bowed. The development of the matter was as Wei Yang had predicted. The 3 workers who did not participate in the smashing were placed under house arrest in the inn. When they saw that Shanghai City was serious and wanted to sentence them according to the law, they changed into official robes and revealed their identities as examiners. Ouyang Shuo gave them enough face and personally went to the inn to welcome them. Chapter 832. 18th day of the 3rd month of the 4th year of Gaia, Southern Border Protectorate. The 3 examiners came to the main hall of the Protectorate. Their first request was to release the caravan that had been sentenced. Ouyang Shuo naturally could not agree to it. He said, Unfortunately, they have violated Shanghai City's territory code. Even as a lord, I have no right to interfere with the sentencing of the Punishment Bureau. The trio turned anxious as they said, "One of them is also an examiner. At the very least, release him, right?" Ouyang Shua shook his head once again. "Without him, we won't be able to complete the assessment." The trio began to threaten him with the assessment mission. Ouyang Shua smiled. He had already discussed this matter with Wei Yang and had come up with a solution. He said, "In view of this special situation, according to the special provisions of the Territory Code, I can allow that Lord to carry out limited and monitored activities. After the assessment is over, he will be sent back to prison to continue serving his sentence." The trio was immediately dumbfounded. Ouyang Shua continued, "Lords, please rest assured. That Lord will not receive any unfair treatment in prison. After serving his sentence, I will personally arrange for someone to send that Lord back to Dali. That's all we can do." Although the trio had received orders, they did not dare to openly threaten a lord like Ouyang Shua. After coming to an agreement, the trio introduced themselves. Including the lord serving his sentence, the four came from the Dali Imperial Court's Ministry of Rights, Ministry of Personnel, Ministry of Revenue, and Ministry of War. They were all officials of the 5th grade. The person leading them was Minister of Rights, Lord He. After a while, Minister of Revenue, Lord Li, was escorted to the Protectorate's main hall by the Punishment Bureau's bailiffs. For the following assessment, this lord would be protected by bailiffs 24 hours a day. Lord Li clearly knew the outcome of the negotiation. His face was grief-stricken. He never expected that he would be thrown into prison because of an assessment. Even if he returned to Dali, he would not be able to face anyone. The leader, Lord He, went straight to the point. "Lord Protectorate, we have completed the assessment of Shanghai City's culture, commerce, popular sentiment, as well as the city's construction. Now, only the Army and the R&D department are left. Lord, please allow us to conduct an on-site inspection so that we can give a fair judgment." Seeing is believing. Ouyang Shua's eyes narrowed. They were using this opportunity to pry into the core secrets of Shanghai City. Sure. Ouyang Shua could not refuse. He wanted to see what these few civil officials could figure out. As he spoke, Ouyang Shua called for Du Ruhui and introduced her. "Milords, this is the Director of Military Affairs of the Southern Border Protectorate. From now on, Lord Du will accompany all of you on your inspection. Sir Du will arrange for whatever you want to ask and whatever important military places you want to enter." When official He saw this, he nodded his head in satisfaction and said, "This is very good. Sirs, please." Du Ruhui understood and led the four to the camp of the Imperial Guards for inspection. After that, they would go to military workshops, shipyards, steel mills, artillery production bases, and other places, all of which were important military sites. Another day passed by in this investigation. On the morning of the 19th, the four of them were in a side hall arranged by Ouyang Shua for the final assessment. Although according to Du Ruhui's report, the four of them had been rather well behaved during the inspection yesterday and hadn't picked on any faults on the spot, Ouyang Shua was still a little nervous. He was afraid that he had overlooked something and the other party would take advantage of it. This group of people came with ill intentions. At 3:00 in the afternoon, it was finally time for the verdict. In the main hall, other than the guilty Surly, the other three people looked normal and nothing could be seen. As the leader of the assessment team, official He made the final assessment statement and said, "I hope that the Protectorate Manor will know that the four of us, under the orders of the Emperor, have conducted a comprehensive assessment of Shanghai City through 5 days of open and secret investigations. Finally, we have come to a consensus that this assessment has passed. Congratulations, sir." Almost at the same time, the sound of a system notification rang in Ouyang Shua's ears. System notification. Congratulations to player Don't Say You Don't Have Clothes for Capital City Advancement Mission 1 Imperial Court Assessment. You have achieved good scores in all 5 areas. Politics, economy, culture, technology, and military. Mission complete. These people were really black-hearted. The mock assessment organized by Jiang Shang had all 5 areas to worry about, but all of them had turned into good scores. If it wasn't for the fact that Shanghai City had no loopholes, these people might have really been black-hearted and failed. Fortunately, I've finally passed. Just 2 days ago, the 3rd mission, a new type of soldiers, had been completed. Of the 3 capital city advancement missions, only the 2nd mission, of 36 lines, had not been completed. During this period of time, all the prefectures and counties had carefully investigated the people under their jurisdiction. They didn't even let go of the villages. Regrettably, not to mention the southern Sichuan, Yunnan, and Lingnan provinces, they didn't even find the divination which in the newly conquered Minnan province. This mysterious which had suddenly become the biggest obstacle to Shanghai City's advancement to the capital city. I might have to use my trump card, Ouyang Shuo thought to himself. Ouyang Shuo raised his head and revealed a warm smile. Thank you for your hard work, sir. We're just following orders. Lord, he revealed a smile and said casually, Lord Protectorate, now that the assessment is over, can you let Lordly go? Rest assured, when we return to Dali, I will definitely report this to His Majesty and punish Lordly. What do you think? Lordly also revealed an expectant expression when he heard this. Ouyang Shuo smiled and shook his head firmly. I've said it before, I have no right to interfere with the Disciplinary Bureau's investigation. I'm really powerless. Lord Li's face was ashen. Lord He's face instantly turned ashen. He said stiffly, Then I'll take my leave. Wait. What else do you want, sir? Lord He asked coldly. Ouyang Shuo smiled and didn't mind. He said, Lord He, when you return, please send my regards to your young master Duan. Tell him that I'll remember the incident at the Breeze Pavilion. You. Lord He's face changed drastically, and his voice trembled. Ouyang Shuo was even more certain that the young master Duan he mentioned wasn't an NPC, but a player. This person was like Caesar, reincarnating as a member of the royal family as soon as he entered the game. It was said that this person's family was a descendant of the Duan family of Dali. No wonder he had such a fortuitous encounter. In his previous life, although this person couldn't compare to the one in the capital, he was still very famous in the wilderness. The real time to make this person famous and shake the wilderness would have to wait until the Duan family of Dali took over the royal city of Dali. The Duan family of Dali's royal family started in 937 AD and ended in 1254 AD. They had 24 emperors and ruled for 318 years, spanning 5 dynasties and 10 kingdoms, as well as the Song dynasty and the Yuan dynasty. The Duan style of Dali in demigods and semi-devils referred to this royal family in history. Of course, the real Duan Zhengchun and his son Duan Heyu, also known as Duan Yu, were not as ridiculous as in the novel. Both father and son ascended the throne, and Duan Yu was the longest reigning emperor of the Dali royal family. During his reign, he was diligent and loved the people. He was a good emperor. However, due to his sons vying for the throne, he was vexed and became a monk in his later years. Precisely because the two of them were the most famous, Gaia chose Duan Zhengchun as the emperor of Dali, while Duan Yu appeared in the royal city of Dali as a prince. The young master Duan who reincarnated as a member of the royal family was named Duan Hong. He was ambitious. From the beginning of the game, he had been plotting how to seize the throne and control the royal city of Dali, becoming the overlord of the wilderness. After Duan Yu appeared, the two of them had a fierce battle over the position of crown prince. It was precisely because of the battle that Duan Hong became famous in the wilderness and was known to ordinary players. Therefore, when the Breeze Pavilion was deliberately made difficult by the Dali court, Ouyang Shuo thought of this person. The person who had instructed the 4 doctors to pry into the secrets of Shanghai City was definitely this person. Ouyang Shuo naturally had to take revenge for this. Lord, he looked deeply at Ouyang Shua, cupped his fists and left, leaving Lord Li alone with a desolate expression. 20th of March, Shanghai City. In a quiet study, Ouyang Shua held a special card in his hand, his expression uncertain. Restricted summon card. King level after use, a random summon can be changed to a restricted summon. Friendly reminder. This card is only effective on people below the king level. This special card was specially given to him by the Siege Lion when he visited. The Siege Lion had obtained this card by accident. He had wanted to recruit a general after obtaining the king-level summoning talisman, but when he found out that Shanghai City's capital advancement mission was blocked, he specially gave this card to Ouyang Shua. Vaguely, there was a sense of loyalty. With this card, Ouyang Shua would be able to use the Recruitment Hall's monthly special talent recruitment opportunity to recruit a divination witch, completing the last capital advancement mission. It was just that using such a precious card to summon a special talent was truly a reckless waste of God's gift. Therefore, unless it was absolutely necessary, Ouyang Shua was not willing to use this card. Since the first mission, Imperial Court Examination, was completed, Ouyang Shua could not delay it any longer. Forget it, if it's a waste then so be it. Thinking of this, Ouyang Shua got up and left the study, heading to the recruitment hall alone. System notification. Detected that the recruitment hall still has a chance to recruit a special talent. Do you want to recruit? Ouyang Shua did not reply, but took out the restricted summon card. System notification. Detected a special tool, restricted summon card. It can change the chance to recruit a special talent to a specific job. Do you want to use this tool? Use. System notification. The tool has been successfully used. Please specify the job of the special talent. Divination Witch. System notification. Job locked. Do you want to start recruitment? Recruit. A white light flashed, and a divination witch walked out from the teleportation circle. Seeing this, Ouyang Shua heaved a sigh of relief, and the system notification sounded in his ears again. System notification. Congratulations to player, don't say you have no clothes. Capital Advancement Mission 2, 36 lines. Completed. Chapter 833. Ouyang Shua arrived at the main hall of the Protectorate Manor and opened the Territory Control panel. He clicked on the Territory Advancement button and heard the pleasant sound of a system notification. System notification. Congratulations to player, not say you have nothing, you have completed all 3 advancement quests. Do you want to advance? Yes. The territory stone steel rose again, and a golden light shot into the sky. This golden light was more dazzling than any of the previous ones. There was even a hint of nobility in the golden light. It was daunting. The pure golden light exploded in the sky and turned into a huge golden halo. It spread in all directions at the speed of light, sweeping across Shanghai City, Lianzhou Basin, Chuanan Province, South Cloud Province, South Ridge Province, South Min Province, Cheong Prefecture County, Yi Prefecture County, Star Prefecture County, Friendship City, Base City, and so on. Wherever Shanghai City's territory was located, wherever its soldiers pointed, they were all protected by the golden light. The commoners who saw the golden light all prostrated themselves in worship. Right at this moment, a loud and clear dragon roar resounded in the sky above Shanghai City. The layers of white clouds dispersed, revealing a towering dragon that stretched for hundreds of miles in length. It was like a mountain that had existed since ancient times. It was simple and leisurely. The purple scales shrouded in the golden light looked even more noble and dazzling. When he conquered Minnan Province, the Dragon of Providence was nourished and was on the verge of advancing. Now that it was nourished by the mysterious golden light, it finally broke the last shackle and advanced to the 3rd rank. The purple dragon was the foundation of a dynasty. The Tier 3 purple dragon's entire body had already turned solid, and there was no longer a trace of illusory aura. the sound of a system notification rang in Ouyang Shua's ears. System notification. Congratulations to player not say you have nothing, the Dragon of Providence has evolved to the 3rd rank, Purple Dragon. The territory's providence has increased greatly, and the weather is favorable. Rewarding player fortune source. 15 points as encouragement. Just like when it advanced to the Red Dragon, the Purple Dragon swept its tail, and spiritual rain fell again. This time, the spiritual rain was denser, and the effect was stronger. It was the beginning of spring. With the nourishment of the spiritual rain, herbs, mulberry trees, and other crops grew at a visible speed. The wild grass and small flowers that covered the wilderness filled up the entire wilderness in an instant, leaving no space for anything to grow. Such auspiciousness was the sign of a prosperous era. Affected by this, the popular support that had been stuck at a bottleneck finally broke through 100. When his Dragon of Providence became a Red Dragon, his territories, popular support had already reached 99 points. More than half a year had passed, and the popular support had increased several times, but it was only at the rate of a decimal point, and it had stopped at 998 points. This time, he finally took a step forward and reached 100 points. Ouyang Shua heard the sound of the system's notification again. System notification. Congratulations player, don't say you don't have clothes, your territory's people's sentiment has reached 100 points, you have been rewarded with a people's tower. That hides the hearts of the people, congratulations player. Name, Wanmin Tower, type, hidden building, function. Randomly recruit an honest and upright official every year. Characteristics, Special talent attraction rate increased by 20, territory popularity increased by 5, description. Water can carry a boat, but it can also overturn it. The king would be invincible if the hearts of the people followed him. A gratified smile appeared on the corners of Ouyang Shua's mouth when he saw this. It really was double happiness. Not only had his fortune source increased by 15 points and completely escaped the fate of being the god of misfortune, he'd even obtained a hidden building. From Gaia's wording, it was likely that every territory whose people's sentiment exceeded 100 would be rewarded with a building that hides the hearts of the people. Shanghai City was the first territory in the world to exceed 100 points, so it received the highest grade of building that hides the hearts of the people. At the mention of honest and upright officials, the figures of Bao Jing, Hai Rui, and Di Renjia flashed across Ouyang Shua's mind. Hai Rui was already working in Shanghai City, so Bao Jing and Di Renjia were even more worth looking forward to. Especially Di Renjia, who was a top-notch detective. The golden light dissipated, and the promotion benefits for the capital city arrived one after another. The sound of system notifications kept flashing in Ouyang Shua's ears. System notification. Congratulations player, don't say you don't have clothes, your territory has been upgraded to a capital city. The Southern Border Protectorate has been automatically upgraded. Please check for yourself. Due to the need to establish a nation, the Southern Border Protectorate is being rebuilt into a palace. The system's upgrade was only an upgrade to the existing buildings, so it did not conflict with the construction of the palace. System notification. Congratulations player, don't say you don't have clothes, your territory has been upgraded to a capital city. After the promotion, a territory teleportation array will be added. Please select the location of the teleportation array. Friendly reminder. The teleportation array's location is not limited to Shanghai City. It can be built in any territory city. Another teleportation array. Ouyang Shua thought for a while and decided to build the teleportation array in the newly conquered dragon-seeking city. There was not a single teleportation array in the South Min province, so it was not beneficial to the territory's rule over the province. Moreover, after the teleportation array in Dragon-Seeking City was opened, it would be a good weapon to defend against the South River province. If Xiongba really had the ability to incite the other members of the Yan-Huang alliance to launch a surprise attack, Ouyang Shuo would be able to teleport his army to the front lines at any time with the teleportation array in Dragon-Seeking City. Only then could he ensure the safety of the territory's eastern border. I choose Dragon-Seeking City. System notification. Location selection complete, teleportation array forming. What Ouyang Shuo felt regretful about was that after being promoted to a capital city, there was no longer the benefit of changing the landscape of a county city. Perhaps from Gaia's point of view, changing the landscape after reaching the capital city would be a waste of effort. Therefore, Gaia gave out a new benefit. System notification. Congratulations to player. Don't say you have nothing to wear, you have leveled up your territory to a capital city. 12 gold men will be specially bestowed to guard the capital city, ensuring the stability of the country and its people. Following the sound of the system notification, golden light continuously flashed outside the northern gate of Shanghai City. 12 bronze men of different shapes and sizes suddenly appeared on both sides of the official road, looking awe-inspiring. Even if one were to look north from the Protectorate's main hall, they would be able to vaguely see the 12 guards. It was a spectacular sight. 12 gold men, a special type of combat puppet. Usually they act as statues and stand still. When the city is under threat of war, they will automatically activate and protect the city. Back then, Emperor Qin Shi Huang collected all the soldiers in the world to prevent the common people from rebelling and cast them into 12 bronze statues. Gaia was rather interesting to directly transform the 12 gold men into combat puppet. Yang Shuo did not know how powerful these puppets were, but they should be comparable to Atlantis combat puppet. Ouyang Shuo had long been envious of Atlantis combat puppet. Now that he had obtained 12 of them at once, it was really satisfying and delightful. According to Gaia's settings, the number of gold men rewarded would decrease by 2. The second place in the China server to be promoted to a capital city would only receive 10 gold men. The third place would receive 8 gold men, and so on. At the 7th place there would be nothing. Other than the unique 12 gold men that was unique to China, there was also a reward that Ouyang Shuo had been longing for. System notification. Congratulations to player. Don't say you have nothing to wear for leveling up your territory to a capital city. After leveling up, a satellite city will be added to guard the entrance to the underworld. Player, please select the location of the satellite city. Friendly reminder. The satellite city's location is not limited to the surroundings of Shanghai City. As long as it is within the territory, it can be built. Hearing the system notification, Ouyang Shuo's heart that had been hanging in suspense finally relaxed. This time, he finally had an explanation for bright moon illuminates the river, shadow fox, and dream clouds devouring top. The future satellite city would have a conservative estimate of more than 3 million players. With such a large number of players gathered in a city, it was difficult to feel at ease. Even if the satellite city could be guarded by guilds related to Shanghai City such as Breeze Pavilion, Shadow Alliance, and Dream Brothel, Ouyang Shuo did not dare to place the satellite city in Lianzhou Basin. It was too risky. Ouyang Shuo thought for a moment and decided to place the satellite city in South Sichuan Province's Xuanzhou County. It would be placed in the outskirts of Tianjing City. Firstly, Tianjing City was a huge city. It had established a solid foundation during the Taiping Heavenly Kingdom, so it had the ability to provide services and security for the satellite city. Secondly, Tianjing City was not far from Shanghai City. It would only take 2 days to travel by relay station, making it very convenient. Thirdly, the satellite city was separated from Lianzhou Basin by the Mulan Fortress. With the fortress guarding it, even if something were to happen, it would be able to hold out until the arrival of the army to rescue the emperor. After that, Ouyang Shuo would instruct the military headquarters to order the 2nd City Guard Army led by Mu Guiying to move to the Mulan Fortress. Mu Guiying had participated in the construction of the Mulan fortress. With Mu Guiying guarding it, Ouyang Shuo could rest easy. Of course, all of this was just a precaution. The possibility of something happening was very small. In the future, only guilds and players that Ouyang Shuo trusted could be stationed in the satellite city. At the same time, to ensure loyalty, Ouyang Shuo would strengthen his control over these guilds to ensure that both sides shared the same interests. Choose the outskirts of Tianjing City. Ouyang Shuo replied. System notification. Location selection complete. Satellite city in process. Along with the system notification, a dazzling golden light flashed in the outskirts of Tianjing City. Like a mushroom cloud from a nuclear explosion, the golden light soared into the sky. It could be seen clearly even from 1,000 miles away. When the golden light dissipated, a brand new city stood in the wilderness. The city was 10 miles long and wide. Whether it was the city walls or the buildings, it was a simplified version of Shanghai City. Unlike the royal city and the satellite city, Ouyang Shuo, as the lord, could personally decide which guild to guard the satellite city. He didn't have to fight over the satellite city like before. At this point, the basic rewards for Shanghai City's promotion to a capital city were given out. Following that, a series of system announcements rang out. System announcement. Congratulations to player not wearing nothing for becoming the first lord to be promoted to a capital city in the China server. Achievement points awarded, 100,000. Congratulations! For a territory in the wilderness, being promoted to a capital city was a completely new step. It was a symbolic event. Therefore, Gaia was generous for once and rewarded him with 100,000 merit points. Don't look down on 100,000 achievement points. It was already equivalent to the harvest from a war. As soon as the announcement came out, the China server was in an uproar again. All players waited with rapt attention, ready to witness another highlight of the China server. Chapter 834. P.S. Let's go all out. Everyone, throw your tickets at me. Following the system announcement, the world announcement that China players were looking forward to was heard. World announcement. Congratulations to China player for becoming the first lord in the world to level up to a capital city. Reward. 150,000 achievement points, 200,000 reputation points. Shanghai City is bestowed with the title of number 1 city in the world. Another 150,000 achievement points, a reward that would make all the lords in the world jealous. World announcement. Congratulations to China's player. Don't say you have clothes for becoming the first lord to level up to a capital city. You have been rewarded with a hidden structure, true dragon pool, and a god-tier summoning talisman. The moment the announcement was made, the entire world was in an uproar. Ouyang Shuo believed that at this moment, all the lords in the world were envious. Hidden amulets and godly summoning amulets were things that all lords dreamed of. Gaia's reward this time was really generous. At this moment, the members of Silver Hand that were scattered around the world were probably feeling complicated. The facts proved that the anomaly in their eyes was far stronger than they had imagined. Thinking of Shanghai City's recent actions in taking over Minnan Province, it was meaningless to not raise the danger level of Ouyang Shuo, the anomaly. This was because at this moment Ouyang Shuo and his Shanghai City stood at a whole new height, a height that they had to look up to. This was no longer something that could be described as an anomaly, but an opponent, a true opponent that was evenly matched. The battle between the two would never end, and they had to give it their all. At this moment, the China Forum was in a state of jubilation, sharing the glory. Be it normal players, guild leaders, or even wilderness lords, they all sent their congratulations to Roland. This was because this was the glory of the entire China region. The strong rise of Shanghai City was a good example of the China region being the most powerful region in the world. Not only did it have a deep foundation and a long history, but even the Lord of China region was worthy of being the number 1 in the world. Such a glory was naturally worthy of being written about. With the disclosure of the satellite cities, Shanghai City's plan to recruit 5 million players would become extremely smooth. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that Shanghai City, which had the protection of the capital city, a vast territory, and 1 million soldiers, had already surpassed the 9 great king cities to become the most powerful force in the China region. Since that was the case, what reason did the players have to refuse Shanghai City's invitation? When Bright Moon illuminates the Great River and the other 2 guild leaders received the news, they were beyond excited. They knew that the most difficult period of the guild had passed. Ouyang Shua had fulfilled his promise. However, Shanghai City was only a satellite city, after all. How were the 3 guilds going to settle down? Who was going to be the Guardian Guild? This was indeed a difficult choice. Bright Moon illuminates the river thought for a moment. He felt that this problem shouldn't be put on Ouyang Shua's shoulders. They needed to coordinate it themselves. That afternoon, Bright Moon illuminates the river headed to the capital to discuss matters with Mechanical Shadow Fox and Devouring Dream Cloud. They had to come up with a plan that was acceptable to all 3 parties before Ouyang Shua officially made his decision. From the town level to the county level, then the county level, and finally the capital level, Shanghai City continued to hold the throne of number 1 in the world. No one could shake it, and it created a legend of the wilderness, an unprecedented legend that would never be replicated. Gaia naturally wouldn't be indifferent to this. Another global announcement sounded. World announcement. Congratulations to the China servers player who says that has no clothes. The territory under your command has continuously held the title of number 1 town, number 1 county, number 1 county, and number 1 capital. Special reward: 150,000 achievement points, 200,000 reputation points, 3 million gold coins, and a special reward as a commendation. Another bombshell. The players all over the world were already numb to it. Some things couldn't be envied. Among the series of rewards given by Gaia, just the most basic achievement points had earned Ouyang Shua 400,000 points. It was enough to raise the 2 rookies all the way to first-grade marquises. Globally, there were less than 200 first-grade marquises. It was truly infuriating to compare oneself to others. The name of Shanghai City was destined to become a global miracle. As soon as the global announcement ended, Ouyang Shua heard the sound of a system notification. System notification. Congratulations to player who says that has no clothes for obtaining a special reward. Do you wish to receive it now? Ouyang Shua was taken aback. He asked, "What's a special reward?" System notification. The special reward is a random reward. Special items, weapons, secret manuals, and strange encounters are all possible. Ouyang Shua hated randomness the most. Receive it. No matter what the reward was, he would think about it after receiving it. System notification. Starting special reward drawing. System notification. Congratulations to player who says that has no clothes for obtaining a strange reward. Territory Guardian Beast, Murphy, has evolved into a divine beast, Qilin, and has become a divine beast guarding the country. Congratulations! In the first year of Gaia, Ouyang Shua captured a male and female Nian during the Nian activities on New Year's Eve. Not long after, the pair of Nians gave birth to a female and a female Nians. The male Nians was Ouyang Shua's current mount, Little Green, which was already a quasi-divine beast. The female Nians was called Murphy and had always been by its mother's side. The male Nians from the previous generation later became the mount of the fierce general, Evil Lai. He changed his name to Rakshasa and followed Evil Lai to conquer the world. The female Nians had always been living in seclusion on the back mountain of the Protectorate. With Murphy. Today, the 2 Nians had already matured. Ouyang Shua did not expect that Murphy would have such an opportunity to evolve into a divine beast before Little Green. As Murphy was a female Nians, it had a more gentle temperament. It was indeed more suitable to be a divine beast guarding the country than Little Green. Name, Murphy, divine beast, belonging, divine beast race. Black jade Qilin talent, divination, can be used to divine good or bad fortune for an army, a talent. Water manipulation, combat power in water increases by 150, unobstructed in the sea, or skill. Fire breath, spits out a stream of energy flames that causes great damage and has a burning effect. Characteristics. Deterrence, increases security of the territory by 45. Has a natural deterrence to beasts in the sea. Increases security of the territory by 45. Guardian, increases defense of the territory by 40. Evaluation. Qilin has the head of a lion, the antlers of a deer, the eyes of a tiger, the body of a moose, the scales of a dragon, and the tail of an ox. Its tail is hairy like a dragon's tail, and has a fleshy corner. It is a traditional auspicious beast in China. It has a gentle temperament and does not harm living beings. It can live for 2,000 years. Legend has it that wherever a Qilin appears, there will be auspicious signs. As expected of a divine beast, Murphy's attributes were much higher than Little Green's. After drawing the special reward, Ouyang Shua checked the attributes of the hidden building, the True Dragon Pool. Name, a True Dragon Pool, type, hidden building, function. Can arrange for one general to enter the True Dragon Pool every month. There is a certain chance of breaking through a bottleneck. Characteristics. Unique talent attraction rate increased by 20, territory popularity increased by 5. Description. True Dragon Guard, Dragon Blood Baptism, the Emperor's side is bound to have fierce warriors. Good heavens, another very useful hidden building. With the True Dragon Pool, local generals like Zhao Sihu, Jiang Kai, and Shi Hu, as well as historical generals with potential like Luo Shixin and Qin Qiong, would welcome a great opportunity. Shanghai City's army of generals was bound to grow stronger. Following that, Ouyang Shua took out the god-level summoning talisman that Gaia had rewarded him with. He wanted to see which general or god-level subject he could summon. Tearing the summoning talisman apart, a white light flashed. When the white light dissipated, an old man dressed like a scholar appeared in the main hall. He had a handsome face, a determined expression, and was dressed in plain clothes. When the old man saw Ouyang Shua, he bowed and said, "Your humble servant, Ko Zhuan, greets the Lord." Ouyang Shua was overjoyed. He personally helped Ko Zhuan up and said, "Good, good, good. Old Ko, you've come to solve my urgent problem." He had been worrying about the future cabinet, which only had Jiang Shang. Now, with a famous subject like Ko Zhuan, the cabinet was established. Ko Zhuan, courtesy name Pingzhong, was a northern Song politician, poet, and scholar. He was awarded the title of Dali Judge, Guizhou's Badong County, later renamed Daimyo Prefecture's Cheng'an County. He was the deputy minister of the imperial court and the judge of Yunzhou. He was summoned to the Academy of Scholars and was awarded the title of Right Jingyan and Directorate of History. He was appointed as the 3rd Division's prefect and judge of salt and iron. He was a fellow prefect of the Privy Council and participated in political affairs. After that, he became a minister twice. He was appointed as the Privy Council envoy and then the envoy minister. In the first year of Qianqing, he was demoted several times. He eventually joined the army in Laizhou and died of illness. Ko Zhuan was famous among the officials of Emperor Taizong of Song for his straightforwardness and wisdom. He was compared to Wei Zheng by Emperor Taizong of Song. An upright official like Ko Zhuan had rich experience in politics. He could judge cases, strategize, understand military affairs, and was an honest and clean official. He was the best candidate for the position of cabinet elder. How could Ouyang Shua not be happy? Name, Ko Zhuan, God level. Title, one of the 10 famous ministers in history. Dynasty, Northern Song. Identity, Shanghai City. Official occupation, civil official. Loyalty, 70 points, commander, 85 martial power, 45 intelligence, 90 politics, 95 specialty, famous minister, increases the territory's incorruptibility by 45, increases the territory's efficiency by 25, increases the territory's culture level by 15, increases the territory's governance level by 30. A book, Ko means poetry collection, evaluation. Ko is upright and generous. He forgets about his country, upholds the Tao, and fights against evil. This is something that few officials in the court can compare to. He is not liked by the common people. After looking at Ko Zhuan's attributes, Ouyang Shua shouted outside, "Come, Lord." Ouyang Shua said, "Ask Lord Xiao to come." "Yes, Lord Xiao." The office of the General Administration of Administration was right next to the Protectorate Manor. Xiao He quickly rushed over. Ouyang Shua took the opportunity to introduce Ko Zhuan to Xiao He. He smiled and said, "Help me entertain Elder Ko." Xiao He cupped his fists and said, "Congratulations, Lord, on getting another official." After the two of them met, Xiao He led Ko Zhuan out of the main hall. The structure of Shanghai City was huge. If Ko Zhuan wanted to integrate into it, it would take more than 1 or 2 days. To be hired as a cabinet elder, one had to be familiar with and approve of the system of Shanghai City. Otherwise, it would just be a decoration, which was not in line with Ouyang Shua's original intention. Chapter 835. After sending Ko Zhuan off, Ouyang Shua finally had the time to check Shanghai City's stats. Name: Shanghai City, number 1 capital in the world, Overlord. How do I have no close titles? Holy Land of the 100 Families, Holy Land of Craftsmen, Land of Martial Prosperity, Home of Spirit Beasts Population, 2 million / Administered Territory. Yunnan Province, Chuanan Province, Lingnan Province, and Minnan Province. Characteristics: omitted, Fate, Purple Dragon, Grade 3. Popular support: 100 out of 100 public security, 95 out of 100 politics, 97 out of 100 determines administrative efficiency, affects popular support, economy, 95 out of 100 determines trade prosperity, affects taxes, culture, 97 out of 100 determines education, affects quality of residence, technology, 88 out of 100 determines territory's scientific research standard, affects technology tree, military, 94 out of 100 determines military strength, affects stable relationships, hidden buildings, recruitment hall, Silver Wish Tower, general selection platform, Tower of Myriad People, True Dragon Pool. After checking Shanghai City's stats, Ouyang Shua's first impression was that it was concise. It had the feeling of going from simple to complex, and then from complex back to simple. After being promoted to a capital city, there was no population limit, and there was no longer any need for refugees to spawn. There was no list of basic buildings, and it was up to the overlord to build whatever he wanted. There were no more restrictions, and it was up to the overlord to decide. The only things that remained unchanged were the 5 attributes of the territory. They silently reflected the territory's construction achievements. The benefits of being promoted to a capital city were not reflected on the stats panel. Using the territory's population as an example, Shanghai City no longer spawned refugees, but the entire territory began to spawn refugees. According to Gaia's settings, after being promoted to a capital city, the county cities, towns, and natural villages below it would be based on 1/5 of the number of refugees spawned at the same level. It would spawn a fixed number of refugees every day. Using the South Chuanan Province's Xuanzhou County's Tianjing City as an example, as a county city, it would spawn 501 plus 50. 20 is equal to 150 people per day under the augmentation of the territory's characteristics. According to this calculation, a county city, including a prefecture city, would spawn 60 people per day, a town would spawn 15 people per day, and a natural village would spawn 3 people per day. Although the number of refugees spawned was not many, it was still a considerable number accumulated over time. With the vastness of Shanghai City's territory, the growth of the territory's population would be even more astonishing. There would be an increase of 50,000 refugees every day. What did it mean to add 50,000 refugees every day? Based on the current territory alone, there would be an increase of 18 million people every year. In 4 years, the territory's population would exceed the 100 million mark, catching up to the population of the Ming Dynasty at its peak. Without a doubt, this was the greatest reward of being promoted to a capital city. The other rewards such as achievement points, hidden buildings, god-level summoning talismans, the 12 gold colossi, and the satellite cities were not comparable to this. The earlier they became a capital city, the stronger their foundation would be compared to the other territories. It was no wonder that the merit requirement for a duke was 5 times that of a first-rank marquis. It was because the capital city and the non-capital city were 2 completely different domains. One was in the sky, the other was on the ground. With this alone, Ouyang Shua had the confidence to wrestle with the silver hand. Even if Di Chun and the others recruited more players to settle in their territory, they would not be able to keep up with the spawning speed of Shanghai City's refugees. Not to mention, with a large number of refugees as a foundation, Ouyang Shua could also increase the number of players he attracted. In the future, even in terms of plundering players, the Yen-Huang alliance wouldn't be able to compare to Shanghai City. This was equivalent to cutting off one of the pillars of the Yen-Huang alliance, causing it to be on the verge of collapse. No matter how many tricks Di Chun and the others played, they could not compare to Ouyang Shua's righteous attack. This was the way of the king. Ouyang Shua closed the status panel and stood up to leave the main hall. He wanted to go to the newly spawned hidden building, Tower of 10,000 Names, and use the first summoning opportunity to summon an honest official. Seeing that the territory was about to be established, Ouyang Shua would not mind even if there were more civil officials. The Tower of 10,000 Names was located in the northeast corner of the capital, next to the general stage. Behind it was the True Dragon Pool, which was also a building. The recruitment hall, the Silver Prayer Tower, the general stage, the Tower of 10,000 Names, and the True Dragon Pool. These 5 hidden buildings were lined up in a row, creating a spectacular sight. After seeing so many of them, Ouyang Shua became calm. System notification. Congratulations to player who has no clothes for unlocking the Tower of 10,000 Names. This is the first time the Tower of 10,000 Names has been unlocked. You will automatically receive a chance to recruit an honest official. Do you want to recruit? Yes. A white light flashed, and a burly and slightly plump old man appeared. Although he was called an old man, he was probably in his 50s. He had a warm smile on his face, and he gave off an amiable feeling at first sight. This humble subject Di Huaying pays respect to the Lord. Ouyang Shua was slightly taken aback, and then a bright smile flashed across his face. He actually managed to recruit the Di Renjia of his dreams on the first recruitment. Ouyang Shua was now truly convinced that after the 2 evolutions of his Dragon of Destiny, he was also a person with a deep source of fortune. This luck couldn't be too good. Ouyang Shua came back to his senses and helped Di Renjia up, saying, "Grandpa Di, please rise." With that, Ouyang Shua personally led Di Renjia out of the Tower of 10,000 Names and back to the Protectorate. Di Renjia was born in the Di clan of Taiyuan. In his early years, he ranked first in the Ming Classic. He successively held the positions of Bian Prefecture's judge, Bing Prefecture's governor's office, Minister of the Supreme Court, Imperial Censor, Minister of Duji, Governor of Ning Prefecture, Assistant Minister of Winter, Right Minister of Wenchang, Governor of Yu Prefecture, Governor of Fu Prefecture, and Minister of Luo Prefecture. He was known for not fearing the nobles. In the 9th month of the 2nd year of Heaven's gift, Di Renjie was promoted to the position of Prime Minister, Assistant Minister of Prefectures, Assistant Minister of Prefectures, 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 and Minister of Prefectures. Di Renjie was reinstated during the Ingzhou Rebellion, and in the first year of Xinggong, he became the Prime Minister again, Assistant Minister of Luantai and Minister of Prefectures. Later on, he urged Wu Zetian to restore the Prince of Luling, Li Xian, as the Crown Prince, allowing the Tang dynasty to continue. It was said that Di Renjie was a god in judging cases, and there wasn't a single case that was unjust. When Di Renjie first took up his post in the Supreme Court, there were a lot of cases in the Supreme Court. He devoted himself to his work, writing day and night, and after a whole year of hard work, he cleared the backlog of cases. There were more than 17,000 people involved in the cases, but not a single person cried out for help after the case was over. The large number of cases and the high quality of the cases were well known at that time. That was how he became known as the godly detective. On the way, Ouyang Shua checked Di Renjie's attributes. Name: Di Renjie, God level. Title: one of the 10 famous ministers in history. Dynasty: Tang Dynasty. Wuzhou. Identity: Shanghai City. Official occupation: civil official. Loyalty: 70 Commander, 75 Martial Strength, 48 Intelligence, 98 Politics, 95 Specialty. Godly Detective Minister. Increases the territory's incorruptibility by 40, increases the territory's efficiency by 25, increases the territory's ability to solve cases by 55, increases the territory's ability to govern officials by 20. Book: Family Style Evaluation. Di Renjie was born with the righteousness of the 5 elements, raised the 9 remonstrances, and was able to bring peace to the throne. He flowed to Hebei, and his name spread far and wide. He only served the emperor and had a clear conscience. He used his portrait to show his kindness. He discussed the Tao and the state, and held the position of a Zhou official. His chastity and resolute spirit made the shrine of Wei's land shine brightly. Another god-level civil official. He was indeed powerful. Not only was Di Renjie a godly detective, but he was also a famous minister. He was even one of the 10 famous ministers in history. Di Renjie was famous for his ability to solve cases like a god. He had not been a prime minister for long. If Ouyang Shua invited Di Renjie to the cabinet, it would be a waste of his talent. Ouyang Shua's idea was to arrange for Di Renjie to enter the Internal Affairs Department and work with Wei Yang, the legalist. He would be in charge of the disciplinary bureau and would be responsible for the trial of cases in the territory. The details would have to be discussed later. As for the other hidden building, the True Dragon Pool, Ouyang Shua was prepared to give the first chance to Zhao Sihu, the deputy commander of the 1st Legion of the City Guards. He hoped that Zhao Sihu could use this opportunity to break through to the king level. Luo Shixin, the young general, was also on the verge of breaking through and could become an emperor-level general at any time. However, Luo Shixin was far away in Dongchuan County, so he could only wait for the next month. It was already noon when Ouyang Shua settled Di Renjie down. After accompanying Di Renjie and Ko Zhuan for lunch, Ouyang Shua returned to his study alone. Shanghai City had already been promoted to a capital city. Ouyang Shua did not want to immediately apply for the establishment of a nation. Establishing a nation would definitely have a mission. There were still many matters in the territory that had not been settled yet. Ouyang Shua did not want to make a hasty application at this time, lest he became flustered when the time came. Not to mention the distant matters, Ouyang Shua had not had the time to deal with the newly conquered Minnan province, the land of remembrance. Before establishing a nation, he had to stabilize the province in order to be at ease. There was also the newly created satellite city that needed to be settled properly. Just as Ouyang Shua was about to summon Jiang Shang, Xiao He, and the others to discuss the candidates for the 4 prefectural governors, a report suddenly came in from outside, saying that someone was requesting an audience. "Who is it?" Ouyang Shuo asked. The person who came in to report was the captain of the imperial bodyguards, Su Chu. This burly man's face unexpectedly showed a rare expression of excitement. He said, "Reporting to my lord, Mr. Wen Ruo has come to visit." The tone of their conversation was quite intimate. It seemed that the visitor was someone who was close to Su Chu. Wen Ruo. Ouyang Shuo did not react for a moment. This should be a person's name. Su Chu smiled honestly, patted his head and said, "It's Mr. Sun Yu." "It's him?" Ouyang Shuo was shocked. He said, "Quickly invite Mr. Sun Yu to the study for a chat." After a pause, he stood up and left his seat. He said, "No, it's better for me to personally welcome him outside the door." Sun Yu's visit at this time must be because he was preparing to become an official in Shanghai City. Ouyang Shuo did not expect that Shanghai City would attract such a great talent as soon as it was promoted to a capital city. It was really a good start. As the news of Shanghai City's promotion to a capital city spread, more talents would come because of its reputation. When Shanghai City was established, there would be even more people willing to become officials in Shanghai City. Even so, Ouyang Shuo wouldn't neglect anyone, let alone Sun Yu, who was such a talented person. Chapter 836. In the reception room of the Protectorate of the Southern Border sat a middle-aged scholar in a red robe with a Han sword hanging at his waist. This person's forehead was full and the ground was round. Even in his middle age, he was still a handsome man with outstanding temperament. He was Sun Yu, Cao Cao's first strategist. It had been more than half a year since the end of the Battle of Chibi and the generals of the 3 kingdoms had appeared in the wilderness. Sun Yu had come to the wilderness to seek a position in the imperial court in Luoyang. After all, Emperor Wu of Han represented the legitimate Han family. Unfortunately, the officials and generals who followed Emperor Wu had formed their own system. Sun Yu was not put in an important position in Luoyang, so he was depressed. When Shanghai City was promoted to the capital, Sun Yu thought of Su Chu, Jia Su, Xiahou Yuan, Cao Chun, and other generals and strategists in Cao Cao's camp. He gritted his teeth and left Luoyang to become an official in Shanghai City. That was why the previous scene happened. When Ouyang Shuo met Sun Yu, it was a scene of harmony between the ruler and his subject. Ouyang Shuo was familiar with Sun Yu, a genius of the 3 kingdoms. In his early years, Sun Yu was known as the talent of the king's assistant. He was filial and incorruptible and was appointed as the palace guard. Later, he returned to his hometown and led his clan to Jizhou. He was treated as an honored guest by Yuan Shao. Later, Sun Yu joined Cao Cao and was promoted to the position of Minister of Defense. He was given the title of Marquis of 10,000 Years Pavilion. Because he was the Minister of Defense and handled military affairs for more than 10 years, he was respectfully called Lord Sun. Later, he was hated by Cao Cao for opposing the title of Duke of Wei and was transferred away from the central government. He died of depression in Sichuan at the age of 50. In terms of strategy, Sun Yu worked out a blueprint and military route for Cao Cao to unify the north, including deeply rooted to control the world and welcoming the emperor. In terms of tactics, Sun Yu protected the 3 cities of Yenzhou in the face of Lu Bu's rebellion. He plotted against Yuan Shao at Guandu and attacked Jingzhou by surprise. In terms of politics, Sun Yu recommended Zhong Yao, Sun Yu, Chen Kun, Du Shi, Shi Jizai, and Guojia to Cao Cao. They were the core members of Ru Ying's group and controlled the political and economic construction of Cao Cao's camp for a long time. Sun Yu made many achievements in planning, plotting, supporting Quang Bai and Juran. Cao Cao called him. Unfortunately, Sun Yu was obsessed with the Han dynasty and eventually parted ways with the ambitious Cao Cao. He died of depression. Name: Sun Yu, God level, Dynasty, Late Eastern Han Dynasty identity. Shanghai City Councilor of Profession, Superior Tactician Loyalty, 70 points, Commander, 75 Strength, 40 Intelligence, 97 Politics, 85 Specialty. King's Talent, increases strategy success rate by 55%, increases talent attraction rate by 25%, increases efficiency by 25%, increases governance level by 20%. Evaluation. Sun Yu of Yingchuan, a tool of Wang Zhuo, has accumulated virtue and has no regrets at a young age. He has been troubled by the world and is loyal to rule the country. A corporal will not be tired from sitting. In the Tai Pavilion, he wouldn't be bothered by his personal desires. Although Sun Yu was a strategist, he wasn't just a strategist. In fact, he was quite a capable civil official. Ouyang Shu already had Jia Su and Chen Gong by his side. It was better to use Sun Yu as a civil official. Sun Yu's arrival made Ouyang Shua's arrangement of personnel in the 4 counties of Minnan Province much smoother. On the 22nd of March, the Protectorate of Nanjiang issued a series of appointments and removals. Di Renjia was appointed as the Deputy Director of the Internal Affairs Bureau and was in charge of the Disciplinary Department and the Supervisory Office. At the same time, Jing Jian was removed from his position as the Director of the Supervisory Office and was sent to the Minnan Province to be the County Governor of Shaowu County. Jing Jian's sudden departure was somewhat out of the expectations of Xiao He and the others. They could not fathom his intentions. In history, Jing Jian had been a military general before he became a civil official and became Wei Yang's right-hand man. During his time as the director of the supervisory office, Jing Jian's performance wasn't very outstanding. He seemed to only listen to Wei Yang's orders and lost sight of Ouyang Shua's original intention of setting up the supervisory office. This made Ouyang Shua somewhat unhappy. Di Renjia's arrival just happened to balance out Wei Yang's presence in the Internal Affairs Bureau. It was reasonable for Ouyang Shua to take the opportunity to transfer Jing Jian out of the Internal Affairs Bureau. Of course, Ouyang Shua didn't mistreat Jing Jian. Jing Jian was transferred to be the county governor of Shaowu County and was even promoted by half a rank. Shaowu County was adjacent to the Jiangnan province and belonged to the border area. Having Jing Jian, a military official, as the county governor was also conducive to stabilizing the border. It could be said to be killing 2 birds with 1 stone. He appointed Sun Yu as the county governor of Fuyong County, Bailey Nanfeng as the county governor of Tingzhou, and Fang Xiaoru as the county governor of Longyan County. Fuyong County was the most central county in the Minnan Province and was also the front line against Overlord City. With Sun Yu, a top-notch strategist, in charge, Ouyang Shua could be at ease. When necessary, Sun Yu could give advice to the troops guarding Fuyong County. Thus, there were 2 special county governors, a strategist and a military general, at the border of the Minnan Province. It could be seen that Ouyang Shua was not at ease with Overlord City. In the future, Shanghai City was going to expand, and Ouyang Shua didn't want Xiongba and the others to cause any trouble. If it wasn't for the fact that he was worried that the Yan-Huang alliance and the Silver Hand would fight back, Ouyang Shua had the heart to take over the Jiangnan province. The county governor of Tingzhou, Bailey Nanfeng, was a player. He was the most important chess piece that the Shanghai guards had planted around them. Ouyang Shua abided by his previous promise and let him govern a county. Bailey Nanfeng was a utilitarian, or rather, an egoist. He wasn't a die-hard loyalist, and he also had the stain of betraying his previous master, the dragon-seeking acupoint. Fortunately, Tingzhou County was located in the Minnan Province, far away from the dragon-seeking city and the ocean. Ouyang Shua wasn't worried that Bailey Nanfeng would cause any trouble. Not to mention, the Shanghai guards were keeping an eye on him. Ouyang Shua believed that Bailey Nanfeng was a tactful person. People who benefited from their own interests were usually clear-headed. As long as Shanghai City didn't have any problems, Bailey Nanfeng wouldn't have any ideas. Apart from Bailey Nanfeng, the first 10 lords of the Minnan province who had cooperated with Shanghai City also received generous reward. All of them were appointed as prefects. Of course, their positions weren't in the Minnan province. As for the 6 lords who surrendered later, some of them were appointed as prefects, while others could only become county magistrates. Whether they could be promoted or not depended on their abilities. For these lords, if they could be promoted to prefects one day, it would be worth it. This time, a large number of lords were appointed as prefects instead of forcing them to become merchants. One reason was that Ouyang Shua had become more confident, and the other was that Shanghai City's system was becoming more complete. The current Shanghai City could accommodate oddities and withstand the impact. The prefect of Longyan County, Fang Xiaoru, was the only famous civil official among the 16 territories in the Minnan province. Ouyang Shua naturally made the best use of his talent and arranged for Fang Xiaoru to continue serving in Longyan County. Name: Fang Xiaoru, King level. Title: Mr. Academic Dynasty. Ming Dynasty. Identity: Prefect of Longyan County. Occupation: Civil official. Loyalty: 70 Commander, 45 Martial Power, 30 Intelligence, 75 Politics, 80 Specialties. Academic: Increases the territory's education level by 30, the territory's integrity level by 20, the territory's culture level by 25. Works: Sun Jizhai Collection. Remarks: Xiaoru has been astute since he was young. His eyes are bright, and he has read a lot every day. Because of his great literary talent, the villagers call him Little Han Zi. Fang Xiaoru's courtesy name was Shiji. He was a senior advisor to Zhu Di, the emperor of the Ming dynasty. Yao Guangxiao called him a scholar's seed. Later, because he refused to draft an imperial edict for Zhu Di, the prince of Yan, he was killed by Zhu Di. Fang Xiaoru was a martyr in history. Mr. Hu Shi once commented, after Fang Xiaoru was killed, there were no more political thinkers in the Ming dynasty for 200 years. With the appointment of the 4 prefects, the Minnan province immediately ended its military control and began to slowly get on the right track. March 23, Longshuan City. After delineating the 4 prefects, Ouyang Shua came to Longshuan City, accompanied by Du Ruhui. The first was to send Sun Yu, Jingjian, and Bai Nanfeng to their posts. The second was to discuss a new round of army reorganization. Because the battle went smoothly, neither side suffered any losses when the Imperial Guards attacked the Longshuan army. Even in the Battle of Longshuan City, the Imperial Guards and the City Guards didn't put up much resistance, because the difference in strength was too great. Similarly, the other 3 counties didn't have any exciting battles. This created a blissful problem. Post-war statistics showed that nearly 300,000 soldiers needed to be reorganized. It far exceeded Ouyang Shua's expectations. Ouyang Shua originally believed that it would be pretty good if the 4 counties could reorganize 3 armies. In reality, it was more than enough to reorganize 4 armies. Among the 3 armies, the Dragon Stallion Army and the Leopard Army currently had 4 field armies, while the Brave Tiger Army had 3. They were just short of 4 armies from the full 5 armies. Ouyang Shua gritted his teeth and endured the objections of the finance department. He planned on expanding the 3 armies to their full strength in one go. It wasn't that Ouyang Shua wanted to be militaristic. Firstly, the soldiers that were to be reorganized were regular soldiers from his territory. Ouyang Shua couldn't possibly let these precious soldiers retire, right? Secondly, with the territory being promoted to a capital city, the population growth would enter the fast lane. It wouldn't take long for the ratio of soldiers to civilians to reach a safe value. Thirdly, Gaia happened to reward him with 3 million gold coins. With this amount of money, the military expansion wouldn't have any substantial impact on the territory's finances. Furthermore, the conquest of Minnan province didn't cause any damage to the territory. Only by stabilizing the hearts of the people could he quickly get back on the right track. There was no need for the Protectorate to provide additional financial aid. Only then did Fanli agree to this round of army reorganization and approved the military budget. Before coming to Longshuan City, Ouyang Shua had already decided on 4 army commanders. The commander of the Dragon Stallion Army's 5th Army was Shi Dakai, the best general of the Taiping Heavenly Kingdom. The commander of the Leopard Army's 5th Army was the famous general of the Sui dynasty, Zhang Xutua. Zhang Xutua didn't make it in time for the previous army reorganization, so Ouyang Shua naturally wouldn't forget this fierce general. The commander of the Brave Tiger Army's 4th Army was Qin Xiong, while the commander of the 5th Army was the young general of the Taiping Heavenly Kingdom, Li Xiuqing. Chapter 837. P.S. Xingxiao has gone berserk. Please give me some tips. I still have 2 chapters to write. I'll post them when I'm done. Each of the 3 armies had a Taiping general as the corps commander. Feng Yunshan, Xiao Chaogui, Hu Yihuang, Qin Rigong, and other corps commanders were also added. The generals of the Taiping faction officially rose and became a force that could not be ignored in the army. The only ones comparable to the generals of the Taiping faction were the generals of the 3 kingdoms. However, the generals of the 3 kingdoms did not come from the same faction, so it was still unknown whether they could be grouped together. The combination of Zhang Xutua, Luo Shixin, and Qin Xiong was also eye-catching. Of course, with Bai Qi, Han Xian, Hua Tsubing, and Sun Bin, the 4 divine generals, and the strict rules, Ouyang Shua was not worried that these generals would cause trouble. At the same time, when assigning positions, Ouyang Shua intentionally or unintentionally separated the generals of the same faction. As the 3 armies reached their full strength, Shanghai City's field army alone reached 20 corps, totaling 1.4 million soldiers, guarding the long border of Shanghai City. The 4 provinces were connected from end to end, forming a long and narrow ribbon. Therefore, it lacked sufficient strategic depth. If it were not for the fact that nearly half of the province was the coastline and the national border, Shanghai City would face even more pressure on the border. Because of this, Ouyang Shua made up his mind to expand the 3 armies to their full strength. On the morning of the 23rd, Ouyang Shua, together with Du Ruhui and other generals, held a temporary military meeting in Longshuan City. He announced the reorganization plan and the appointment of the relevant generals. The specific reorganization work was still the responsibility of the General Administration of Military Affairs. Ouyang Shua's only request was that the territorial armies be disorganized and reorganized, but there should be no prejudice in the appointment of the territorial generals. Ouyang Shua had also sent letters to the 16 feudal lords of Minnan province, asking them to recommend their respective generals and make an objective evaluation of them for the General Directorate of Military Affairs reference. After the military meeting, Ouyang Shua met with Qin Xiong alone. Name: Qin Xiong, King Level, Dynasty, Sui Tang Identity, Commander of the 4th Army of the Brave Tiger Army, Occupation, High-Level General Loyalty, 75 points, Commander, 70 Force, 85 Intelligence, 55 Politics, 40 Specialty, Brave, increase troops attack power by 20, increase marching speed by 20, Skill, Family Halberd Technique, Equipment, Tigerhead Golden Halberd Evaluation. Qin Xiong is brave and valiant. He is good at using a lance. He can be said to be brave. To know one's integrity and resolve one's country's crisis, to worship a falcon to assist the ruler, one can be said to be loyal. After the truth was revealed, Qin Xiong shifted his hatred to Overlord City. If it wasn't for Overlord City's interference, his master wouldn't have betrayed him. At least, that was what Qin Xiong thought. For this reason, Qin Xiong strongly requested to guard the border of Fuyong County. Ouyang Shua agreed to Qin Xiong's request and even discussed it with the commander of the stalwart Tiger Army, Sun Bin. Not long after, the headquarters of the brave Tiger Army would be transferred from Shaozhou County of Lingnan Province to Fuyong County of Minnan Province. Sun Bin would command the 1st Corps of the brave Tiger Army. Together with Fan Lihua's 3rd Corps and Qin Xiong's 4th Corps, he would personally guard the eastern border of the territory. The battle between Sun Bin and Wu Qi, this pair of warring states' heavenly generals, is something to look forward to. As for the defense of Shaozhou County, it would be jointly guarded by Di Qing's 2nd Legion and Li Xiuqing's 5th Legion. At the same time, Di Qing was appointed as the deputy commander of the brave Tiger Army and would be in charge of the defense of Lingnan Province. In this way, the military deployment of Lingnan Province was not weakened, and the defense of Jiangnan Province was strengthened. The brave Tiger Army also became the first field army whose jurisdiction spanned across 2 provinces. The newly formed 5th Legion of the Leopard Army would be stationed in Tianjing City. During normal times, it would be responsible for deterring the satellite cities. During times of war, it could go north to support the front line at any time. On the 24th of the 3rd month, after arranging the military affairs, Ouyang Shua began a week-long inspection. Since the establishment of the country was imminent and the matter of the satellite cities was still pending, Ouyang Shua was already at his limit for a week. Fortunately, the 4 counties of the South Min province were rather peaceful. Ouyang Shua, the Lord, only needed to show his face and declare his sovereignty, and that would be enough. If he had time in the future, Ouyang Shua would go to the Minnan province to inspect again. Using the opportunity of the inspection, Ouyang Shua had a general understanding of the 4 counties so that he wouldn't become a laughingstock. First, Longyan County. With the addition of the 4 counties of Minnan Province to Shanghai City's jurisdiction, the relationship between Shanghai City and Quanzhou Royal City suddenly became subtle. It was unknown whether the 2 could still maintain frequent trade. Because of this, when Fang Xiaoru, the governor of Longyan County, took office, Ouyang Shua made a clear request for Longyan County to speed up the construction of Xiamen Harbor and strive to make Xiamen Harbor comparable to Jiaozhou Harbor within a year. In reality, Xiamen Harbor was a larger harbor than Quanzhou Harbor and had a superior geographical location. There was no reason to say that Shanghai City couldn't carry out maritime trade without Quanzhou Harbor. On the contrary, without the export of goods from the territories of Minnan Province, Quanzhou's competitiveness would be greatly reduced. Moreover, the Izhou Strait was not yet under Shanghai City's control, so it might not be able to compete with Xiamen Harbor in the future. Ouyang Shua called this a drastic measure. The only regret was that Minnan Province's famous Anshi Tea Village was located in Quanzhou County, which made Ouyang Shua salivate. Anshi was the hometown of Tiguanyin and Oolong tea, famous both at home and abroad. Apart from Xiamen Harbor, Longyan County also had some coal resources that could solve the urgent need. There was no need to talk about Tingzhou County and Shaowu County. They did not have any special characteristics or shortcomings. They were counties that conformed to the rules. If they were managed well, they would be able to generate decent profits. Moreover, these 2 counties were bordered by Jiangchuan Province, so they could guide the goods from Jiangchuan Province to be sold overseas through Xiamen Harbor. Just the tariff alone would be very impressive. Among the 4 counties, Fuyong County was the most developed. Dragon-seeking acupuncture borrowed a lot from Shanghai City's development experience, and with the loan support from the Bank of the 4 Seas, its overall economic strength was obviously stronger than the other 3 counties. After taking down Fuyong County, the relevant loans were transferred to the Fuyong County Yamen and continued to be fulfilled. Moreover, Fuyong County's system was copied from Shanghai City's system, so there were no problems with integration. While Ouyang Shua was inspecting Minnan Province, the negotiations between the 3 guilds, Breeze Pavilion, Shadow Alliance, and Dream House, were also coming to an end. During this period, Bright Moon Illuminates the River also specially informed Ouyang Shua about the relevant terms of the negotiations. After Ouyang Shua nodded in approval, the plan was officially implemented. On the 25th of March, a piece of news blew up the entire guild circle. Breeze Pavilion, a Shadow Alliance, and Dream Pavilion announced that the three guilds would merge into one and form a new super guild, Blood Shadow Alliance. After the reorganization, Breeze Pavilion, Shadow Alliance, and Dream House's shares in the Bank of the Four Seas would also be transferred to Blood Shadow Alliance. 11% of the shares made Blood Shadow Alliance the second largest shareholder of the Bank of the Four Seas. After taking down Dragon Seeking City, Ouyang Shua didn't kill them all. The 1% of shares that Dragon Seeking Acupuncture held in the Bank of the Four Seas was still owned by Dragon Seeking Acupuncture, and it was enough to ensure a lifetime of wealth. Blood Shadow Alliance's leader was Bright Moon Illuminates the River, while Shadow Fox and Dream Cloud Swallowtop were the deputy leaders. From today onwards, the three famous guilds, Breeze Pavilion, a Shadow Alliance, and Dream Pavilion had become history. On this basis, a super guild was born. After the reorganization, Blood Shadow Alliance even surpassed the number 1 guild, Baleful Blood Mercenary Group, and became the guild with the most members in the China server. Blood Shadow Alliance had more than 1 million members, and it was truly a giant. After the failure in the battle for the satellite cities, the three guilds had lost some members. Fortunately, Ouyang Shua's promise allowed the core and backbone members of the three guilds to stay. Losing a certain amount of weight actually reduced the amount of unnecessary resistance during the reorganization, making it much smoother. Of course, the three guilds that had nothing to do with each other could successfully reorganize because of Shanghai City's satellite cities. Without this, everything would be meaningless. With Ouyang Shua's authorization, Blood Shadow Alliance became the Guardian Guild of Shanghai City's satellite cities as soon as it was established, and the guild headquarters were moved to the satellite cities. As for Dali and the capital, only one branch was left. Once the news came out, countless guilds were envious. After Shanghai City's satellite cities appeared, many guilds in the 9 great royal cities tried to establish a relationship with Shanghai City in an attempt to obtain the right to guard the satellite cities. Who would have thought that the right had already been decided? Of course, Blood Shadow Alliance also paid a price. After all, Ouyang Shua was not a saint. Blood Shadow Alliance would go through a shareholding reform, and according to tradition, they would invite Ouyang Shua to be an independent director. Ouyang Shua would invest in Blood Shadow Alliance as the Guardian Guild of the satellite cities, and he held 5% of Blood Shadow Alliance's shares. Even though it was only 5%, it was valued at more than 1 million gold coins. Because it was a collective shareholding, even Bright Moon Illuminating River only held 4% of the shares. Therefore, Ouyang Shua was still the largest shareholder of Blood Shadow Alliance. However, the shares he held were different from the shares and voting rights held by the higher-ups of Bright Moon Illuminating River and the other guild. As long as there was no internal conflict between the higher-ups of the guild, they would still be able to control the shares. Shanghai City's satellite cities were huge, and it could accommodate more than one Blood Shadow Alliance. Threads and Falling Moon Society would also set up branches in the satellite cities, but of course their headquarters would not be moved. In the eyes of Love Thread and Sun Xiaoye, Cliff Mountain City and Shanghai City were not inferior to the satellite cities. Both guilds were guilds of pure life profession players, and they only needed to set up a branch in the satellite cities to purchase raw materials and a branch in charge of selling finished products. Exploration of the underworld would be left to the combat profession players. At the same time, a small half of the small and medium-sized guilds that Shanghai City had introduced would move to the satellite cities. Even if they did not move their headquarters there, they would set up branches in the satellite cities like Threads and Falling Moon Society. Even so, the satellite cities were still a little empty and they were far from being full. Ouyang Shua had no intention of bringing in too many guilds at once. It was fine if there were fewer people. Chapter 838. P.S. Xing Xiao is throwing caution to the wind. Every 20,000 reward will be rewarded with one chapter. Sir, aren't you going to do it? While Ouyang Shuo was patrolling the Minnan province, the Blood Shadow Alliance had already begun reorganizing and relocating. It was estimated that everything would be done within half a month. The first batch of players from the Blood Shadow Alliance had already arrived at the satellite city. They were all elite team members. They would be the vanguard to explore the underground world and map it out. Ouyang Shuo was also interested in this. According to Gaia's settings, the Overlord could bring an army to explore the entrance to the underground world within the territory. Ouyang Shuo was also curious as to what kind of surprises the mysterious underground world held. April 1st, Shanghai City. Ouyang Shuo hurriedly ended his patrol in the Minnan province and returned to Shanghai City with the Imperial Guards. The Imperial Guards had made a great contribution this time. They had traveled thousands of miles and settled the matter in a single battle. They had completely washed away the humiliation of Eternal Humanity City. Hua Zubing's long-distance assault tactics would probably give many people a headache. After being promoted to a capital city, Ouyang Shuo felt that Shanghai City had become even more prosperous. There was an endless stream of merchants and players on the city street. It really had the atmosphere of a capital city. The first thing Ouyang Shuo did after returning to Shanghai City was to apply for the establishment of a nation. The palace had basically been renovated, and all that was left was to establish the nation. In the main hall, Ouyang Shuo opened the territory's control panel and clicked on the application for the establishment of a nation. A system notification sounded in his ears, beginning the basic conditions. System notification. Testing Shanghai City's application for the establishment of a nation. Condition 1. Main city to be promoted to a capital city. Requirements met. Condition 2. Lord's title is at least a duke. Requirements met. When he was promoted to a capital city, Ouyang Shuo had obtained 400,000 merit points in one go. His current total merit points had reached a terrifying 46 million. He was only 540,000 merit points away from the next rank of duke. Condition 3. Lord's reputation is at least outstanding reputation. Requirements met. Not to mention outstanding reputation, Ouyang Shuo had already achieved the next rank, renowned across the seas. Ouyang Shuo now had 48 million reputation points, but it was far beyond that. He did not know if Gaia would introduce a higher reputation next time. Condition 4. Have at least 4 counties. Requirements met. Compared to the capital, the requirement for establishing a country was an additional county. If not for the existence of a royal city in certain provinces, Gaia would probably have set the condition to a single province. For some small and medium-sized countries, the prerequisite for establishing a country was to complete domestic unification. Otherwise, they would not even be able to meet the territory condition. Condition 5. The population of the territory must exceed 10 million and meet the requirements. Gaia's considerations were thorough. If a particular territory was militaristic, only thinking about external warfare and plundering tactics, only knowing destruction and not construction, it would cause the newly occupied territory to become a scarlet wall with a withered population. This kind of territory was not qualified to apply for the establishment of a country. Capital city, noble title, reputation, territory, and population were the 5 basic requirements for establishing a country. If they didn't reach this standard, they wouldn't even have the qualifications to apply. It was better to give up on the idea of establishing a country. Condition 6. The territory's luck is at least rank 2, red luck. The requirements are met. The Dragon of Providence was already a rank 3 purple dragon, and it had even met the requirements to establish a dynasty. Condition 7. Territories' popular support must reach at least 95 points, meet the requirement. Establishing a country was an important matter for the people. If the popular support did not meet the requirements, no matter how strong the territory was, it would be useless. Condition 8. Possess a guardian divine beast, meet the requirements. Murphy had coincidentally evolved into a divine beast of the kingdom, and it really came at the right time. Otherwise, Ouyang Shua could only think of a way to let Little Green evolve again and break through the last shackle. As for the auspicious beast Qi, it was a special spiritual beast and could not become a guardian divine beast. It was funny, Shanghai City had a dragon as its totem. Regardless of whether it was the Lord Flag or the manifestation of luck, they were all divine dragons. Who would have thought that the first guardian divine beast would actually be a Qilin? However, the whereabouts of the dragon race were elusive, and Ouyang Shua was not sure if he would have the opportunity to meet a divine dragon in the future. If he could invite a divine dragon to be the guardian divine beast, that would be impressive. Condition 9. Possess at least one treasure to establish a country, meet the requirements. Back when he was out at sea, the seal that Ouyang Shua was wearing was completely unsealed on Dragon Island and turned into the Emperor's seal. The unsealed Emperor's seal was not only authentic, it was also a top-grade treasure to establish a country. The 9 basic requirements implied that 9 out of 9 would return to 1, and it was the will of the heavens. It could be seen that each of the 9 basic requirements was more difficult than the last. Even if a territory was promoted to a capital city, without Ouyang Shua's fortuitous encounter and Shanghai City's heritage, it would be impossible to establish a country in a short period of time. System notification. Congratulations to player who says that has no clothes, all the requirements for establishing a territory have been met. Do you wish to immediately establish a country? Yes. System notification. Congratulations to player who says that has no clothes for establishing a country. Beginning automatically matching mission. System notification. Mission matching complete. Mission 1 was submission of the 4 barbarians. The territory must have at least 4 alien tribes recognized by the system. Gaia really knew how to make things difficult for people. Submission of the 4 barbarians was indeed a sign of establishing a country, but it was easier said than done. Even in Shanghai City, the only alien tribes recognized by the system were the mountain barbarians in the territory, the Li tribe that lived in Jingzhou Island, and the recently subdued Gaoshan tribe of Izhou Island. For missing one, there was still one missing. The nomadic tribes of Lianzhou Basin were probably too small in scale, and they did not live there for a long time, so they could not be considered as the source of the nomadic tribes. Therefore, they were not recognized by Gaia. There was no problem of subduing the ethnic minorities of the various provinces, so they were naturally not recognized by Gaia. This was difficult for Ouyang Shua. Where was he to find another alien tribe that was recognized by Gaia in such a short period of time? Furthermore, he had to subdue it. Ouyang Shua thought of the Chang tribe in Sichuan, but the mountains were far away, so it was rather difficult to implement. I'll see. Ouyang Shua shook his head silently. He knew that the mission of establishing a country would not be easier than the capital city advancement mission. Mission 2 Wanxiang Update. Recently, the territory will have to achieve an academic breakthrough, develop a new type of weapon and equipment, and obtain a new type of technology to celebrate the birth of a new dynasty. Ouyang Shua's face immediately darkened. What mission 2? There were clearly 3 missions, all right? Why did he feel that Gaia was becoming more and more immoral? What was an academic breakthrough? Ouyang Shua was temporarily at a loss. If it was a new type of weapon and equipment, the industry department's shipping department had been developing the Z-1 warship. According to Ouyang Shua's knowledge, it was about to be completed, so he should be able to make it in time. From the looks of it, he still had to urge the shipping department. Finally, it was a new type of technology. This was the most difficult. With Gaia's character, the existing technology in the wilderness was definitely insignificant. He had to either develop a new type of technology or find some other advanced technology. Ouyang Shuo was really tired. How could there be such a torment? Mission 3. Congratulations from all corners. At least 50 lords will come to congratulate the founding of the country. Friendly reminder, lords are not limited to players. They can also be NPC factions, and they are not limited to the country. There were less than 100 lords in the wilderness in the China region. According to Gaia's requirements, more than half of the lords in the wilderness would come to congratulate Shanghai City for establishing a country. If it was before the appearance of the Silver Hand, Ouyang Shuo was confident that he would have the face to do so. However, with the Silver Hand stirring things up, the waters in the wilderness were completely muddled. Ouyang Shuo was really unsure how many lords would come to Shanghai City to congratulate him. The Yen Wang Alliance camp was definitely unreliable. It would be good enough if they did not send a bomb. Ouyang Shuo made a rough estimate. Other than his 3 allies, Feng Qiuhuang, Siege Lion, and Tao Wu, he could invite at least 15 out of the 20 lords in Jiangchuan province. Then there were the 2 major city-states, Chuanbei City and Xiangnan City. Ouyang Shuo estimated that there would only be 18 of them. The rest were variables. Among the NPC factions, West Chu would probably come. Xianyang City and Luoyang City of the 9 great king cities would also arrange envoys to congratulate him. Chuanzhou City was already settled, but it was definitely not counted on now. In the country there were probably only that many. There were only 39 of them, which was still a distance away from 50 lords. Ouyang Shuo regretted taking over the Minnan province. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been difficult for him to gather 50 lords. However, with Gaia's nature, Ouyang Shuo had reason to suspect that the number of 50 was precisely calculated by Gaia. If Minnan province was still around, the mission requirement would have been 60 to 70 lords. Gaia would not let Ouyang Shuo take advantage of any loopholes. Therefore, Ouyang Shuo could only count on foreign countries. If not for Silver Hand, even if it was abroad, Ouyang Shuo was confident that he could gather 50 foreign lords to congratulate him with the huge influence of the Grand Line. Thinking of this, Ouyang Shuo was full of resentment towards Silver Hand. Just you wait. Sooner or later, I will cut off your hand. Ouyang Shuo thought silently. William and Henry definitely could not be counted on from abroad. However, Queen Kaliao of Atlantis should come to Shanghai City to congratulate him. As for the other lords of the Mediterranean Sea, it was hard to say. Ouyang Shuo was not sure how many of them were members of Silver Hand, or were controlled by Silver Hand. He estimated that there were only 2 or 3 of them. Then there were the ASEAN countries, especially the few countries that had trade agreements with Shanghai City. There should be 3 or 4 lords coming to congratulate him. In this way, there were still 4 or 5 lords missing. Ouyang Shuo was not too worried. There was a way. There was still time, and the Chamberlain of Dependencies could still work. As long as they were diligent, they could always poach some of the Silver Hand's members. It was just that it was inevitable to pay a little price. System prompt. The 3 founding missions must be completed in order to successfully establish a dynasty. Ouyang Shuo was silent. This was really not surprising. Strictly speaking, the 3 missions designed by Gaia were very profound and were completely worthy of the style of establishing a nation. Chapter 839. On the afternoon of the first day of the 4th month, in the study of the Protectorate headquarters, Ouyang Shuo summoned the Minister of Industry, Chen Bingguang, and asked, "Old Chen, how long will it take for the Z-1 model battleship developed by the shipping department to be launched?" Although Old Chen was a little surprised, he still replied in detail, "The construction of the main body of the U Emperor has been completed. In another week, it will be launched at the shipyard. After that, it will be tested at sea. It will probably take another month. The Remnant Emperor was the first Z-1 type battleship built from the bones of a black dragon. It was also Ouyang Shua's new flagship. In the second half of the fourth year of Gaia, Ouyang Shua planned to board the Emperor Yu for another voyage. A month. Ouyang Shua frowned and asked, "Can you speed up the progress a little? Is Juanshang in a hurry to use it?" Old Qin was puzzled. Ouyang Shua shook his head and gave a general introduction of the founding mission. Elder Chen was enlightened and obviously looked excited as he said, "That's a good thing. Don't worry, Juanshang, this official will definitely urge the shipping department to speed up the progress and strive to complete all of the Yu Emperor's tests within half a month." Ouyang Shua smiled and nodded. "Then I'll have to trouble you, Elder Chen." "Not at all, not at all." Old Chen's footsteps were a little light when he left. To these scientists, being able to witness the silent rise of a huge empire in the game and personally participate in it was a very interesting thing. Ouyang Shua's expression was not relaxed after seeing Old Chen off. In the afternoon, the 3 missions to establish the nation had already been initiated, and Ouyang Shua had already made the necessary arrangements. Among the 3 tasks to establish the country, the first task, submission of the 4 barbarians, was the one with the most uncertainty. The time and location were uncertain, and even the target was not 100% certain. Ouyang Shua had already entrusted Chao Kan, the governor of Dongchuan County, with the cooperation of the Chamberlain of Dependencies, to secretly travel to the Shu region and make contact with the Chang tribe in Chang County. He wanted to see if he could guide a few large Chang tribes to settle down in Shanghai City. Based on Gaia's personality, if Shanghai City brought in too few Chang tribesmen, they would not be approved. The second mission, Myriad Phenomenon Update, was the most nerve-wracking. Currently, the research and development of the Z-1 battleship was the most important. Fortunately, there were signs of an academic breakthrough. Ouyang Shua, on the other hand, thought of the 10 calculations of heavenly secrets that Song Jia had given him. He had already given the 10 calculations of heavenly secrets to Southwest University China Research Hall and tasked all the masters of divination to work together to decipher the 10th calculation of heavenly secret. The Southwest University China Research Hall was overseen by the Federation's top scientists. They would definitely be able to find another way to solve the problem within the scope of ancient mathematics. If he succeeded, it would be an academic breakthrough. This could also be considered a freak accident. As for the last new technology, it was still a mystery. Ouyang Shua looked for Lu Mo to see if the 7th Research Institute could combine Western alchemy to create a new technology. All of this takes time. The third mission, congratulations from all corners, should be the shortest and the least urgent. Ouyang Shua had already ordered the Chamberlain of Dependencies to begin preparing the invitations. Once the first and second missions were completed and the date of the founding of the nation was set, the invitations would be sent out one by one. The Department of Culture was already preparing for the coronation ceremony on the day of the founding of the country. It was busy but not chaotic. Before that, the Chamberlain of Dependencies would need to move around. The news of Shanghai City's founding had already spread throughout the wilderness. There were probably people waiting to see Shanghai City as a joke. Ouyang Shua naturally could not be defeated at this time. He had to maintain his momentum of sweeping across the land. The coronation ceremony was the moment when Shanghai City would display its influence. In the next few days, there was no progress on the founding mission, which made Ouyang Shua rather frustrated. On the 5th of April, the leader of the Blood Shadow Alliance, Bright Moon Illuminates the River, came to find Ouyang Shua. A few days ago, the headquarters of the Blood Shadow Alliance had successfully moved to the satellite city. It could be considered to have officially settled down. Shanghai City and the Blood Shadow Alliance had also signed an official authorization agreement. Just like the Royal City and the Satellite City, Shanghai City's properties and shops were all handed over to the Blood Shadow Alliance to manage. The difference was that Shanghai City would take 60% of the profits, which was 10% more than the Royal City. Based on the current number of players in the satellite city, the General Administration of Finance roughly calculated that 60% of the profits plus business taxes would bring in close to 300,000 gold coins for Shanghai City every month. It was not that Ouyang Shuo was evil. If he wanted to, he could have arranged for the territory officials to handle this matter. The profits would be even greater. However, Ouyang Shuo adhered to the principle of a win-win situation, so he did not interfere with the affairs of the satellite city. Sometimes one's hands could not be stretched too far. Besides, when it came to managing adventurer players, Shanghai City was not good at it. The Blood Shadow Alliance was the expert. The main reason Bright Moon Illuminates River sought out Ouyang Shuo was to request an army from Shanghai City to be stationed in the satellite city to assist the Blood Shadow Alliance in managing the city. Gaia would spawn 10,000 NPC troops to guard every royal city and satellite city. The territorial satellite cities did not have such treatment. It could only be arranged by the territorial lord. When Ouyang Shuo heard Bright Moon Illuminates River's request, he smiled and said, "Don't worry. In a few days, the Leopard Army's 5th Army will be stationed in the outskirts of Tianjing City. When the time comes, arrange for a division to be stationed in the satellite city." That couldn't be better. Bright Moon Illuminates River was overjoyed. Bright Moon Illuminates River was confident in the quality of Shanghai City's army. It was probably stronger than the NPC army spawned by Gaia. After discussing official matters, the two chatted until they reached the topic of the opened underground world. Ouyang Shuo asked out of curiosity, "How is it? What's the situation in the underground world?" With the opening of the 9 satellite cities, there would be information regarding the underground world popping up on the forums from time to time. Gaia even conformed to public opinion and specially created an underground world column on the forums. Just as Gaia had advertised, be it in terms of numbers, types, or even levels, the underground world's monsters completely crushed the monsters in the wilderness. However, the current underground world was still a forbidden zone for ordinary players. They had to wait for the magnate guilds to explore before they could enter. If not, it would only take minutes for them to be wiped out. Even the elite squads that explored the area suffered heavy losses. In the words of the guild bigwigs, every line on the map they drew was filled in with the flesh and blood of the elite squads. It was a tragic sight. Of course, the magnate guilds were not trying to be lay fong. As pioneers, be it killing bosses or gathering rare materials, they were the first to arrive, earning them a bountiful harvest. It was also their first fortuitous encounter, so they did not suffer any losses. Ouyang Shuo asked Bright Moon Illuminating River about the situation in the underground world. As the underground world was huge, the monsters in different capital cities were different. Bright Moon Illuminating River smiled and said, "It's indeed brutal. If there's a chance, I suggest you go take a look." He then briefly explained some interesting things about the elite squad's exploration. Ouyang Shuo's heart stirred. He was also very curious about the mysterious underground world. He nodded and said, "All right, I'll treat it as a stroll." Since there was no progress in the Founding Nation mission, there was no need for Ouyang Shuo to stay in Shanghai City. Who knew? He might have a fortuitous encounter in the underground world. After all, Ouyang Shuo was a person with a lot of luck. "All right, when are you coming?" "I'll make the arrangements in advance," Bright Moon Illuminating River said with a smile. Ouyang Shuo nodded and said, "The day after tomorrow." "No problem." The two chatted for a while before going their separate ways. April 7th, Satellite City. Ouyang Shuo's sudden appearance in Satellite Town with 3,000 divine martial guards immediately caused a commotion. Countless players gathered to watch the show. Everyone wanted to see this legendary powerhouse. Fortunately, Blood Shadow Alliance was prepared. They arranged for 5,000 players to separate a path. The satellite city was equivalent to a miniature version of Shanghai City. Ouyang Shuo naturally had no interest in visiting. After entering the satellite city, the group did not stop and directly went to the entrance of the underground world. Bright moon illuminating river specially arranged for an elite squad to be the guide. The leader was called Broken Heart Thief Marshal. Lord, I'm called Broken Heart Thief Marshal. The heartbroken thief marshal ran over with a smile on his face. Since Blood Shadow Alliance entered the satellite city, the 1 million members automatically regarded themselves as a member of Shanghai City. When they saw Ouyang Shuo, they directly called him Lord. Actually, to the current players, being able to talk to Ouyang Shuo was already a great honor. Broken Heart Thief Marshal was chosen to be the guide. Who knew how many brothers would die of envy? Ouyang Shuo smiled and said, "Sorry to trouble you. I'll call you Thief Marshal." Broken Heart Thief Marshal smiled, and did not know how to reply. He turned and ran to lead the way. There must be an extraordinary story behind this maverick name. The stairs to the entrance were made of stone. The further down they went, the darker the light became. The stairs were also wet and covered with a thin layer of moss. The walls on both sides were covered with thick vines. They were very tenacious. After walking for about 10 minutes, there was a faint chill in the air, causing people to shiver unconsciously. The surrounding light had already become extremely dark. It was like the break of dawn covered by the hazy moonlight. Ouyang Shuo immediately thought of the legendary Netherworld. It was probably like this. Walking further down, there was a faint whistling sound of wind coming from the depths of the ground. It was accompanied by cold air. It was even more terrifying. When the divine martial guards saw this, they all had solemn expressions and were ready for battle. "Lord, we're almost there," the thief marshal in front suddenly said. Just as he finished speaking, there was suddenly a hazy white light in the cold light. It slightly illuminated the dark and terrifying space. At least they could look around normally. That's right. If the underground world was really pitch black, how would the players explore? They couldn't always carry a torch. That wasn't realistic. The group walked for less than 20 meters and arrived at an open space. Looking around, no one would have imagined that this was actually underground. Just the open space under their feet was the size of 10 football fields. Outside the open space, there were ravines and huge tunnels leading to an unknown world. The whistling cold wind rushed out from those huge tunnels. They could also faintly hear the sound of flowing water. The thief marshal ran over and said with a smile, "We've built a temporary base here. In the future, we'll build a fixed supply base. The entire underground world is made up of tunnels and open space. The open space is the node and also the main monster area. The tunnels are the veins." Chapter 840. Looking at the tunnels in front of him, Ouyang Shuo asked, "Which one?" "There." The lovelorn bandit commander pointed to a tunnel in the west. The players of the Breeze Pavilion hadn't forgotten their crushing defeat in Dali. They naturally held a grudge against the Shao Alliance that guarded Dali's satellite city. They were still looking forward to a battle in the underground world. Ouyang Shuo didn't expose them. The tunnels were winding and undulating. The highest parts were 4 to 5 meters high, and the lowest parts had to be bent down to pass. The width of the tunnels was different, and the light wasn't strong. It was easy to panic. Although the open space was the monster area, it didn't mean there were no monsters in the tunnels. Along the way, they encountered large bats from time to time. There were also rats moving on the ground. These small animals weren't small at all. They were as big as puppies and extremely fierce. They had sharp fangs and red eyes. These guys hid in the darkness and didn't know when to launch a sneak attack. Experts like Ouyang Shuo were fine, but the soldiers of the Divine Martial Guard suffered. They were used to fighting on the battlefield, but they lacked experience in dealing with these troubles. Fortunately, the Divine Martial Guard was strong and well-equipped. Although they were a bit embarrassed, there were no casualties. Su Chu frowned when he saw this. The Divine Martial Guard was the personal guard of the Emperor. They were the special forces of the special forces. They shouldn't only know how to fight on the battlefield. They should be used to fighting in any form and in any environment. Not to mention such a small animal, even if it was facing a divine beast or a ghost, it should still be calm and composed. After coming down, I have to carry out special training for the Divine Martial Guard, Su Chu thought. After Wang Feng resigned as the commander of the Divine Martial Guard, Su Chu had been leading the Divine Martial Guard. Looking at the situation, Ouyang Shua didn't have any intention of appointing a new commander. After walking for about an hour, there was a burst of light in front of them. They had reached another open space. However, this open space had been cleared by the Blood Shadow Alliance, so there weren't any strong monsters. Ouyang Shua didn't stop and ordered them to continue exploring. The Divine Martial Guard carried a large number of military rations. They didn't need to return to resupply, so they could use this opportunity to gain experience. How could Ouyang Shua not notice the problem that Su Chu saw? They walked and stopped. By the afternoon, they had passed 3 open spaces. The terrain of each clearing was different. There were forests, grasslands, deserts, and swamp. Fortunately, this was a game, and all the rules were decided by Gaia. They could design the game however they wanted. In reality, it was impossible to have such an underworld that violated the laws of nature. Just when Ouyang Shua's group was about to arrive at an empty space, the sounds of intense battle suddenly came from ahead. "Are there any other players here?" Ouyang Shua asked. The previous empty space was the unexplored area of the Blood Shadow Alliance, and there shouldn't be any fights. This shouldn't be the case. The bandit marshal was also puzzled. He said, "Alliance Master has already given the order. In order to protect the Lord's safety, the entire west side has been temporarily cleared. I'll go take a look and see who has the gall to commit such a crime. Does he not want to stay in Satellite Town anymore?" Hearing this, Ouyang Shua frowned slightly. It was not that he was disgusted by the actions of the Blood Shadow Alliance. After all, that bright moon illuminates the river was out of consideration for his safety. It was understandable that they had different standpoints. What he was disgusted with was the arrogance that the members of the Blood Shadow Alliance unknowingly revealed. It had only been a few days, but they were already so arrogant. This was not a good sign. However, this person was not his subordinate, so Ouyang Shua could not say anything. After a while, the bandit marshal returned with a faint look of excitement. He said, "Lord, it's not players. It's a pack of grey wolves attacking a group of NPCs." Grey wolves were a type of gold-ranked monster that was commonly seen in the underworld. As they lived in packs, they had great destructive power. Even an elite team would have to be careful when dealing with them. The Wolf King of the Wolf Pack was at least a dark gold-ranked monster, or even a high-level spirit beast. It was extremely ferocious. The underworld did not only have wild monsters. There were various signs that indicated that there were humans living in the underworld. According to Gaia's settings, these races hid in the underworld to live, either because they were avoiding goods, or because of natural disasters, or purely by coincidence. They multiplied and took root in the underworld for generations. To be able to encounter NPCs meant that there was a high chance of receiving a mission. It was no wonder that the bandit marshal was excited. Ouyang Shua's expression changed. He said, "Let's go take a look." After passing through the tunnel, the area before them suddenly opened up. The open space here was a hilly landscape. Further away, there was a small river meandering through it. As such, this place was not as barren as other places. It was actually lush with rarely seen water plants. It was no wonder there were wolf packs around. However, due to the lack of light, the weeds were not verdant. Instead, they appeared to be a deep dark green. On a small hill in the middle of the hill stood a group of aborigines dressed in hemp clothes. They held simple weapons in their hands. There were about 11 or 12 of them, and all of them were wounded. These aborigines were clearly different from the above-ground residents. They were generally thinner and their skin was gray in color. The most eye-catching thing was that they had tattoos of a bear's head on their chests. They looked ferocious and domineering. At a glance, there was a hint of savagery. The interest in Ouyang Shua's eyes intensified. He gestured for the divine guards to kill those gray wolves. Upon receiving the order, the divine guards took out their gods' crossbows and quickly got into formation. It was a volley of shots. The gray wolves were also ferocious. They did not immediately die under such a powerful crossbow attack. Under the command of the Wolf King, the gray wolves abandoned the aborigines on the small hill and pounced at the divine guards. The divine guards were not afraid. After another volley of shots, they took out their tang sabers and prepared to fight the gray wolves in close combat. Seeing this, Ouyang Shua's fighting spirit was aroused. He took out his demonic spear and charged forward. Seeing this, Su Chu quickly followed with his personal guards. As the scale of the army expanded, Ouyang Shua rarely had the chance to personally go to the battlefield. The demonic bloodline in his body was slightly restless, revealing a thirst for blood. Ouyang Shua took advantage of the situation and charged into the wolf pack with his demonic spear. He was invincible. Although he did not go to the battlefield, his martial arts skills had never fallen behind. Together with Su Chu, a killing god, he set off a monstrous massacre in the wolf pack. Seeing this, the bandit marshal and the other members of the Blood Shadow Alliance could not help. The bandit marshal turned his head and said, "I've long heard that the Lord's martial strength can be ranked in the top 3 even among the adventurer players. I thought it was an exaggeration, but now it seems that it is true. I'm afraid the wolf pack in front of us will not be able to force the Lord to use his true strength." Fierce. The team members all sighed with emotion. This was what they were playing. While they were talking, the wolf pack had already suffered heavy casualties. Seeing this, the Wolf King in the distance decisively ordered to retreat. Wolves were very cunning animals and would not fight to the end. Ouyang Shua put away his demonic spear and looked at the mountain not far away. The group of people were also tactful. 2 people came down. The leader was a middle-aged man. Seeing the equipment of the divine martial guards, a trace of reverence appeared in his eyes. He cupped his hands and said, "Thank you for your help, Lord." Ouyang Shua smiled and waved his hand. "Let's go see the wounded first." He saw a man lying on the mountain top. He seemed to have been seriously injured. When they reached the mountain top, they saw the man lying on the ground with a pale face. He was not far from death. Although the surrounding natives were all injured, they did not care about their injuries at all. They surrounded the man with anxious expressions. This man must be a very core member of their team. Ouyang Shua frowned. He took out a medicinal pill from his storage pouch and fed it to the man. This medicinal pill was made by Bien Quebec. It could save a life at a critical moment. Sure enough, after taking the medicinal pill, the man's complexion obviously improved. His breathing also became calm. Seeing this, the surrounding natives were in an uproar. Ouyang Shua's expression was not relaxed. Just now, he had already sensed that this injured man was not a brute. There was true qi circulating in his body. Moreover, this aura was very familiar to Ouyang Shua. "Help him sit properly," Ouyang Shua ordered. Seeing this, the natives did not dare to be negligent. They carefully helped the injured man up. Ouyang Shua sat cross-legged. He pushed his palms forward and pressed them on the injured man's back. The golden true qi in his body surged. He separated a small amount and slowly moved it through his palms into the injured man's meridians. As soon as it came into contact with the injured man, the golden true qi became excited. Ouyang Shua's heart thumped. This confirmed his previous guess. This injured man's cultivation technique was actually the same as the inner canon of the Yellow Emperor. He became more and more curious about the origin of this group of native. Otherwise, Ouyang Shuo would not have wasted his precious true qi on an NPC. Under Ouyang Shuo's treatment, the almost exhausted true qi in the injured man's body slowly flowed and began to repair itself. Finally, the man was pulled back from the brink of death. If he wanted to fully recover, he would have to slowly adjust his breathing and recuperate. After a while, the injured man woke up. When he saw Ouyang Shuo, he cupped his hands in gratitude. His eyes were filled with bewilderment. He muttered, "Emperor." "What?" Ouyang Shuo asked. The man clenched his teeth and asked, "May I ask, benefactor, are you cultivating the inner canon of the Yellow Emperor?" "That's right." The man became even more excited when he got a definite answer. He was not the only one. The surrounding natives also looked at Ouyang Shuo. The previous vigilance in their eyes was gone. They became incomparably respectful. Ouyang Shuo asked tentatively, "Are you the descendants of the Yellow Emperor?" "Yes." "Then, why did you appear underground?" The man sighed. With a complicated expression, he said, "It's a long story. Would benefactor be willing to come to my place for a chat?" Ouyang Shuo was exactly what he was looking for. He said, "Then, I'll have to trouble you." The man was overjoyed. He ordered his men to pack up the prey and prepare to set out. When Ouyang Shuo saw this, he asked the divine martial guards to help him collect the corpses of the grey wolves. This could be considered a greeting gift to the man's tribe. Under the natives' lead, the group passed through one tunnel after another. After walking for 3 hours, they finally arrived at a heavily guarded clearing. Of course, there was not much difference between night and day in the underground world. The clearing here was even more vast. One could not see the end of it. If it were placed on the surface, it would be a proper basin. There were valleys, grasslands, fields, streams, and even forests. It was no wonder that this group of natives had built their tribe here. It was indeed a rare place with good feng shui. Chapter 841. After the Yellow Emperor's tribe defeated Qiyu in the Battle of Zhuolu, they established themselves in the Central Plains. A branch of the tribe was ordered by the Yellow Emperor to pursue the remnants of the Qiyu tribe in the south and moved all the way to the southern border. Unexpectedly, during the migration, the ground suddenly caved in, forming a huge pit. In one night, the entire tribe was buried underground. When the disaster came, more than 70% of the tribe died tragically. The survivors survived in the mysterious underground world and tenaciously multiplied for 1,000 years. In order to trace their roots, this group of underground tribes called themselves the Yuxiong tribe and used the bear as their totem. They relied on the Yellow Emperor's cultivation techniques, beast-taming techniques, and hunting techniques to gradually gain a foothold in the underground world. After the collapse of the ground, the entrance to the underground world was sealed again. The Yuxiong tribe had no hope of going out. Only when the satellite city was opened and the entrance to the underground world reappeared in the wilderness, did Ouyang Shuo and his party meet the Yuxiong tribe. Ouyang Shuo was fortunate enough to have such a fortuitous encounter on his first trip to the underground world. When Ouyang Shuo and his party arrived at the Yuxiong tribe, they were warmly welcomed. The injured middle-aged man was the tribe's hunting captain, whose status was second only to the patriarch and the great elder. After learning that Ouyang Shuo cultivated the authentic inner canon of the Yellow Emperor, even the patriarch couldn't help but be moved and said with emotion, "I didn't expect that I would be able to see the Emperor's successor before I die." Ouyang Shuo smiled and briefly introduced Shanghai City and the entrance to the underground world. Then, he sincerely said, "Since we are fated, why don't you bring your people to Shanghai City and settle down there?" The patriarch was somewhat moved, but he shook his head and said, "I appreciate the Emperor's good intention. According to the records of our tribe, our ancestors have always wanted to return to the surface, but there is no way to do so. It's just that, in our generation, after 1,000 years, we have already gotten used to the underground life. I'm afraid that we won't be able to adapt to it if we go up." Ouyang Shuo agreed. He thought for a while and said, "If that's the case, I won't force you. However, the land belongs to the Emperor. This underground world is still within the borders of Shanghai City. As long as the chief agrees to officially submit to the rule of Shanghai City, I can arrange for more advanced farming techniques and production tools to be sent over. I can also arrange for generals to train warriors for the tribe, as well as weapons and armor to ensure the safety of the tribe. In addition, I also suggest that we send some children and women up there so that they can slowly adapt to life on the surface. Chief, you don't want the Yuxiong tribe, the descendants of the Yellow Emperor, to live in darkness forever, do you?" This, the patriarch, grand elder, and the middle-aged man looked at each other. Ouyang Shua's proposal was very tempting. Although the warriors of the Yuxiong tribe were not weak, the monsters in the underground world were stronger. Every time the hunting team went hunting, there would be casualties. Furthermore, there was not enough care underground, and the crops grown in the ground were unable to grow into preserved fruits. Every winter was a severe test for the entire tribe. Hunger had become their natural enemy. Ouyang Shua then said, "You still don't know?" The Yellow Emperor had also appeared in the wilderness, but he lived in seclusion. What I want to say is that as long as we go up to the surface, we will meet the Yellow Emperor one day. The three of them became even more excited. They looked at each other and nodded heavily. The old chief said, "The Emperor's grace is equivalent to giving me a new life. How dare I not serve him?" With that said, the three of them stood up and solemnly bowed. Ouyang Shua's face lit up with joy, and he heard the system notification. System notification. Congratulations to player not say you have clothes for successfully subduing the Yuxiong tribe, a remnant tribe of the underground world. You are specially rewarded with 10,000 reputation points as encouragement. System notification. Congratulations to player not say you have clothes for subduing the mountain barbarian tribe, Li tribe, High Mountain tribe, and the remnant tribe of the underground world. Nation Founding Mission 1 Submission of the 4 Barbarians. Completed. Ouyang Shua was overjoyed. There was a glimmer of hope at the end of the tunnel. He had never thought that an impromptu exploration of the underground world could unexpectedly complete Nation Founding Mission 1. How delightful! At night, the Yuxiong tribe hosted a banquet for Ouyang Shua and his party. There was a special dish on the table that attracted Ouyang Shua's attention. It was a thick soup. Besides wild beast meat, there was also a kind of mushroom, which looked very much like the enoki mushroom in the real world. Ouyang Shua picked up a handful. It was smooth and fragrant. It was undoubtedly the enoki mushroom. Ouyang Shua was shocked. It was the first time he had eaten such mushrooms in the game. Even in Shanghai City, where there were countless delicacies, he had never seen such mushrooms. Could it be wild? The dark and damp underground world was indeed suitable for the growth of wild mushrooms. Ouyang Shua turned to the old chief beside him and asked, "Chief, were these mushrooms picked in the wild?" The old chief smiled with a proud expression and said, "My lord, these mushrooms are indeed found in the wild. The ones we are eating now are grown in the cave. Grown by ourselves." Ouyang Shua's interest was piqued. "Yes." The old chief stroked his beard and said with a smile, "Speaking of mushrooms, there is a story. According to the genealogy, the tribe encountered an unprecedented food crisis 300 years ago. They could only eat wild vegetables and mountain mushrooms. Especially mushrooms, they are one of the staple foods. However, mushrooms grow fast and wither fast, and they are not easy to store. A member of the tribe suddenly thought of transplanting the mushrooms in the wild into the cave. After experimenting for more than a year, he finally succeeded. In our generation, the mushroom planting technique is very mature, and there are many kinds of mushrooms. Especially the enoki mushroom mentioned by my lord, it is a great delicacy." Ouyang Shua was silent. Could it be that this is the black technology of the underground world? Thinking of this, Ouyang Shua asked, "Old chief, Is it convenient to teach this technique to outsiders? I can let the people on the surface see that even the underground world has its own unique technique. The old chief smiled and said, "My lord is too kind. Please wait for a moment." Saying this, he stood up and left. After a while, the old chief returned with a piece of sheepskin in his hand. After tanning, it could also be used as paper. The genealogy of the Yuxiong tribe was recorded with this sheepskin. The old chief passed the sheepskin to Ouyang Shua. Ouyang Shua took a look and the attributes immediately appeared. Underground Mushroom Planting Technique Manual after use. The user can master all kinds of mushroom planting technique. At this moment, a system notification sounded in Ouyang Shua's ears. System notification. Congratulations to player, don't say you have no clothes. You have obtained a new technique, Underground Mushroom Planting Technique Manual. 1/3 of the nation establishment mission Vientiane renewal is completed. Please continue to work hard. Oh, it's really not bad. Ouyang Shua was overjoyed. It was double happiness. He did not expect that his trip to the underground world would solve the two major problems of the nation establishment mission. It was truly a worthwhile trip. From the looks of it, Gaia's design of the underground world was not as simple as a place for adventurers to level up. The mysterious underground world had countless mysterious races living there. They possessed all kinds of mystical skills and black technology. It was a good supplement for the wild world. Ouyang Shua thought that Shanghai City would increase its exploration of the underground world. There might be some surprises in the future. The underground world was becoming more interesting. The next day, Ouyang Shua and his party stayed at the Yuxiong tribe for a day. The old chief and the others wanted to choose 100 young men and women and children from the tribe to stay with Ouyang Shua in Shanghai City. On the 9th of April, Ouyang Shua and his party returned without any accidents. That night, Ouyang Shua spent the night in the satellite city. During that time, he chatted with Bright Moon Illuminating River, Mechanical Shadow Fox, and Dream Cloud's Devourer. They discussed the development of the underground world. Ouyang Shua proposed to set up a reward pool of 100,000 gold coins. Be it Blood Shadow Alliance members or other adventurers in the satellite city, as long as they found a subterranean remnant tribe and reported it, they would be rewarded with 10,000 gold coins. He believed that there would be brave men with such great rewards. As long as they found a subterranean remnant tribe, the 100,000 gold coins would be well spent. Other than rewarding adventurers who had fortuitous encounters, Ouyang Shua also proposed to set up an underground world mapping project. He called upon all the adventurers in the satellite city to participate in the mapping. As long as they contributed to the mapping, they would be rewarded. The rewards were not limited to gold coins. Be it cultivation technique manuals, weapons, or equipment, as long as the map provided was valuable, Ouyang Shua would not be stingy with the rewards. Ouyang Shua's intention was to leave the two projects to the Blood Shadow Alliance. The Bright Moon Illuminates the River didn't even think about it and immediately nodded in agreement. Shanghai City was paying, and as long as they put in some effort, they would be able to expand their influence in the satellite cities. While chatting, Ouyang Shua hinted at Bright Moon Illuminating River to restrain the members of the Blood Shadow Alliance. He told them not to become arrogant and think that the Blood Shadow Alliance was the overlord of the satellite city. If that's the case, I'll be very disappointed, Ouyang Shua said. Bright Moon Illuminating River and the other two had grave expressions. They had been preoccupied with the reorganization of the guild, and did not notice the change in the mood of the Blood Shadow Alliance members. Don't worry, I'll take care of it, Bright Moon Illuminating River said. Ouyang Shua nodded and did not say anything else. This kind of matter should not be overdone. On the 10th of April, Ouyang Shua and his group prepared to return to Shanghai City. Not far from the Castellan mansion, Ouyang Shua met two people on the street. They were Liangshan mercenary group's leader, Song Pu, and Bloody Rose, Zhang Ziyu. Speaking of which, this was the first time Ouyang Shua met the two of them in this life. Time had changed. Shen Buhai had already told Ouyang Shua that the Liangshan mercenary group had moved to the satellite city. At this time, the two of them were looking at Ouyang Shua and his group with respect and curiosity like the other players. Ouyang Shua's heart moved. He took out a dark gold long sword from his storage pouch and gave it to Su Chu to give to Zhang Ziyue. Su Chu received the order and quickly walked to Zhang Ziyue. He said, "This is a gift from my lord." "For me?" Zhang Ziyue was surprised. "My lord said that it was fate that brought you together, so he specially gave this sword to you. There's no other meaning." Su Chu did not say much. He turned around and returned to the group. Ouyang Shua saw this and nodded to Zhang Ziyue. He led the group and disappeared on the street, leaving Zhang Ziyue standing there in a daze. Song Pu, who was beside her, looked at her inquisitively. "You're tuning in to the Phoenix Nights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories."